Dang, they were just getting to the good song. All right, where's that coming through? This side, huh? All right, let's move this on it. There we go. No, still there. There we go. Green screen. What was I doing? So I'm moving a little slow this morning. Just setting that bar real low for today's live stream. I guess what we can do. Hey, everybody. Let me move my chat over so I can keep an eyeball on it. I was thinking what we could do today. Any ZBrush 2021.7 stuff. It's all out there now. If you did want to see what's new, you know, here's the making of the Bison and all the little props for the Bison. I just put that up yesterday because I forgot to publish that one. But there is the what's new thing here, so I can go and post it in here if you want to catch up on all the new features. It kind of starts in the middle of the playlist, so it's going to start at 99 of 106. So as far as the actual videos 84 through 91 of the instructionals in this playlist here. If you prefer the YouTube one, here's where you'll start. Playlist starts at 84. That's what I was looking for. That index. You can start here. Cool. Well, you get to catch a stream live today. I'm in the Central Time Zone, so it's 6 a.m. here. It's not terrible, but again, I'm not. You can probably tell how every time I stream, I sound like garbage, but today, maybe more so. So, and again, I'm moving slow, which isn't a bad thing. I think most people are, they don't like my speed anyway, so maybe this will attract a different audience, an audience who needs a little more fluff, a little less action. That's a file. I'm just gonna open. Let's see, where is that? Computer D. I don't even know where it is. Give me a sec. And of course, Maya has their stupid dialog box thing that doesn't have what I need. So we'll go here. We got Can Boys. We got Beauty Shots, Teaser, Buffalo Breakdown, Scene Render. Yeah, I think that's what I need. So this was interesting. I really haven't animated since college, and you can definitely tell. So if I go over here to my marketing page and we say, let's see, view details, sort by date. So we have Buffalo scene only. Yeah, this thing. Let me turn this audio way down here. So basically, I'm going to take you to a breakdown of this. So I had mocap, and I applied it to the quick rig, the human IK rig, for these guys. And of course, these guys aren't human, so there were some pretty severe adjustments I had to do to the shoulders, which were done in an animation layer. So if I go over here, basically I threw the human IK rig on this character so that I could. There we go. Oh boy. Just give me back my thing there. You know, so that I could have a character to kind of go through here and move around if I needed to. Of course, I'm a terrible animator, so not the best case. The best thing I should do is go grab some mocap of, you know, and it's actually a good mocap of, you know, a person leaning over and carrying something heavy. However, his arms are too long and he's carrying a gas can, so of course that lean put all this stuff through the ground, and also the shoulders were a little bit off. That might have been my fault. I might have misplaced or misattributed some joints here. But anyway, you know, he's all set up, you know, as a human IK rig, and then he's just piped through some animation, some mocap animation. Of course, this mocap animation here, if I go to the timeline editor, it's basically just a looping. The mocap just kind of loops 3 times, you know, because he has to walk more than one loop. So here, and you can kind of see it kind of hitches. He goes, yeah, kind of, yep, on that as they stitch together. And then this transition's a little bit awkward. I don't know why I'm taking you through like, hey, next time you watch a video, look out for all these horrible things happening. But you know, this transition is a little awkward, but it's transitioning to another mocap, which is just an idle, and you can kind of check his watch here. But then there was an adjustment layer on top of here that was adjusting his shoulders, which put him into some sort of a weird gimbal situation where I couldn't really rotate his shoulder overly effectively. Because if you go in here, and again, this is me embarrassing myself with my rigging and animation knowledge. You know, these things started getting weird on his shoulder, and I also, you know, moving his arms around, and also having the animation layer stick. I had to go through here. What I have to do with this, I want to say reach translation and reach rotation. I had to turn these on and off depending on the situation so that the animation layers on top, the correction animation layers on top would kind of stick. So I was very much out of my element, but you know what? It got done. This, as I, let's just move forward. So you're going to see where I'm putting the camera is basically where I can kind of keep your eyes away from the horrible animation, which is not a good way to set up a scene. So bad idea. But you can also see his feet clipping through the floor, which I didn't really have time to go back in and do another adjustment layer to keep his feet up, which probably would have been the easier solution. But I ended up just putting dust particles in front of his feet there. And then this guy is literally just having, the only thing I had time for was just taking his hips and just rotating it and trying to make it look like he was doing something. Really apparent as the camera comes around this way. So what I ended up doing is making it seem like the film kind of jumped off the track and I actually switched the film type. And then I put a little electricity pop and smoke what are these called? Jumper cables are attached. And again, and so his hand also clips pretty badly through the can. So I try to keep the camera up in this case because that's pretty obvious. You can see his arm lock out there. And then also, I don't know if this is of interest, you'll see smoke coming out of the exhaust here. I'm tracking in smoke in post. And then as I swing around, it was too much for me to deal with. I felt like being lazy. So I just stopped the smoke there. So anyway, that's the scene breakdown. But yeah, everything in here is all set up. If I go in here, let's see if I can do this. Let's see, this is, we'll keep this on perspective and we'll shoot that down to 50%. Oh, do I got extra things in here? Let's see, background. Oh, you know what? Some of these looks like they have, their paths. You know what? I'm not going to fix that for now. But anyway, here's the scene. So, you know, as these things are doing their thing, I got the scene set up, and there's a 32-bit Studios has a V-Ray tutorial, and I kind of threw in and then tweaked some of these light rigs here so I can switch this lighting out to, I guess I can put it over here, all sorts of cool things just as a starting point here. But you're going to see, yeah, a lot of the textures are not mapped in because I changed the name of the folder from a secret name to Bison. Anyway, that's that. If I go in here, let's say open again, and I'm just going to do teaser. The teaser was set up a lot differently. That was just, again, I'm just going to embarrass myself with some animation stuff, but basically if I go in here and I start clicking down the hierarchy, so I basically, you know, if you start lower on the hierarchy, I'm just parenting everything up the chain and setting their pivots so that I can go through and just basically animate the pivots. So this is just a really simple animation of, you know, when you got the, switch back over here to modeling. There we go. And let's kill these gates. So basically, I'm just rotating, I'm setting the pivots, so I kind of have a little jolt start, and then as it kind of lands, this thing falls, which you can't see at all in the teaser because the lighting is super dark. Boom, that hits, and then this thing, oh, that shouldn't, I click up, I need to fix that. Well, that's dumb. But anyway, this thing slowly lowers down, and as it lowers down, it clicks into place, and his little handles pop forward on his head, and then his head raises up and his eyes turn on. You can see in the material. That's all that is. But again, there's no rig in here or anything. It's just literally just, if I open this up, it's just parented, and then these things. I guess you could use parent constraints, but anyway. And like before, I don't think these textures are going to be set up, so apologize for that. Yeah, hopefully I'm not too fast today, because boy, I'm dragging. The mocap animation I got from Mixamo. So basically what I did was I went to, I don't think I have a file for it, but I went to Mixamo, I downloaded the FBX of the animation, and then I retargeted it to my little can dudes. And then I had to fix, because I mean, their bodies are quite different. So be prepared, if it's not just a straight up human, to do some pretty serious, I don't know if retargeting is the right word, I suppose it is, but Maya does all that, so that's surprise. I mean, I did half a day's worth of putting in, rigging, putting on the mocap, getting the scene set up, overlapping the mocap, and then doing adjustment animation layers. That's about half a day's worth of work, and I haven't animated since college. So the good news is, boy, if I can do it, you can certainly do it, and much better than I did. Give yourself some time. The systems are pretty robust in Maya. They're I won't say they're idiot proof, but approaching it. If I'm able to do it, that says something. Oh, thank you, 3D Head Tutor. Thank you very much. That helps, and that always surprises me when I see that. But I wish I could give you a. Let's see. Nope. The only thing Restream allows me to do is block you, put you in timeout, or blocklist you, which of course I don't want to do. Let me reply. That's what I can do. But yeah, thank you very much. Oh, new semester today. Yeah, class is starting. I have some allergies, and then the dog is scraping her bed again in the morning, so 5 a.m. wake up call from that ish. To make fur, you prefer to do it in ZBrush or Maya? I'm trying to learn XGen. I block it out in Maya, or I block it out in ZBrush where I want my hair to go, and then if I want to, I can convert things to fiber mesh and pull those in as fibers, or I can just use geometry for the hair. It's not XGen, but it's the same process I would do for XGen. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Google Drive, hair process. Share, get link, copy link. This here, if I open this up, it's basically, this is geometry, but not even this. You can just sculpt, the direction of the hair. You can zero mesh it. You can take the geometry, root the tip of your sculpt if you wanted to, just little strips of it, and convert those to control curves. But this type of thing where it's like, hey, here's the geometry laid out. So I have a root, I have a tip. I can use these to control the XGen curves, and then go in there and groom and clump however you want, and then you get this relatively quickly. You can use fiber mesh. There's nothing wrong with that, especially, yeah, there might be some situations where I use fiber mesh. I don't do it much, so I'm certainly not an expert. The guys at the office are the experts. They do some really, really cool things with XGen and Olympic hair and stuff like that. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll do that sometime soon. They have all the documentation and how they do it, so I should just learn it. They made it easy for me. They're the rock stars. And thank you again, 3D Head Tutor. I need to, oh, I didn't actually send that link. There's the link for that. It's great. How long was each frame render in that scene? Oh, that's a good question. I want to say, I mean, I don't forget how I have this set up. Let me check real quick. So as I was going through here, we're rendering V-Ray settings. And it was, I mean, I will say it was super easy to render in V-Ray. I didn't really change any settings. The only thing I had to worry about was like making sure and going here the animation was set. Frame padding. I just exported as PNG. I didn't do EXR because I wanted to run it through. You know what? We can do, you know, I'm not on Pixelogic's channel, so we can go way off the mark here. Let's load up Vegas Pro where I do all my editing. I do a ton of my editing in Vegas Pro because it's fast and it's a fast editor, and I can go through it. I can do like, what's the best way to describe it? Like music video edits where it's just like chop, 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 chop. Tried using Premiere. Premiere is the slowest damn editor I've ever. Premiere is like an editor you would use for like, oh, I'm putting together a documentary and I have 15-minute video clips I would like to make one transition between every 5 minutes, and you know, then I have, you know, that's the kind of editing that I would have to do in Premiere, because boy, it is not set up for, at least I couldn't figure it out. Like Vegas Pro, I can edit like crazy, and then in Premiere I'm like, oh my god, it's so plodding. It's like, here's my video clip, put in a transition, slice it, they're together now, you can put a transition here, and it's like 7 button clicks just to kind of take a chunk of video out. It's anyway, let's see, scene render with VFX. Oh, you know what, I forgot when I renamed the folder, it broke everything. So let's do this. Search. Oops, cancel. I will find it. Specify. And hopefully this will throw it in there. Sorry. Accessories, turnarounds. Master layer 0. Boom. It's right there. Hey, we did it. So if we break this down, and let's see if we can. So here's the entire timeline here, but as usually I'm using my full monitor here, which is a lot bigger. And now that I got it shrunken down to 1920 by 1080, I see a little bit of the shortcomings of my layout. But you know what? I guess we just control drag. So if I go through here and start muting this, you'll start seeing a lot of stuff disappearing from the final render to where we just get back to, this is the source by itself. So this is what got pumped out of V-Ray. Oh, minus. Sorry. Mute. There we go. So this is what got pumped out of V-Ray. So you can see it's just a clean sweep through here. No smoke or anything like that. The first thing that I did do, not the first thing, but what I have just above here, is you're going to see it transitions to it's actually a different film type. This is actually really cool. So if I go in here to effects and we say jump into the FX editor, let me shrink this down real quick. Yoink. You're going to see you can do film effects where it's like, hey, you know, really scratch up the film really badly and that kind of thing. What I have here is different film types, so I can go through here and choose a different camera, you know, to kind of get that look. So if I want a real old school, that's kind of cool looking. I mean, there's so many cool things. Make it look like a 1970s taxi driver type look. You can go and grab that camera and apply it to your, if you want to make it super old school, you can grab one of these things here. Let me see. And they have all the description over here too of what exactly it's doing. But you can see a ton of different cameras, ton of different effects that you can get. We'll make this one look a little, what's it called? Wizard of Oz. So we'll go through here and we'll say apply. There we go. So now, and again, I'm overlaying this, or I'm kind of fading from one as the film kind of jumps the gate. It's going through here and changing, and then it kind of changes back, and then you just put a little sound effect in there. On top of that is, so this was changing the film type, kind of, and then on top of that is, this is the dust and grime version. So if I head into here, this is another really cool one. Let me zoom in just a little bit. FX browser. And sorry, again, I use my whole monitors, but when I live stream, I only do 1920 by 1080. But in here, so here's 1970s super color. So you can kind of, you can press play, you can kind of see, you know, what that'll do. Aging badly, that's the kind of effect you'll get. All default black and white, cool desaturated gate weave. You put some piano underneath this, you're in good shape, man. There we go. This is Mack truck damage. So if you drive your film back behind a truck for a little while, that's what you'll get. And then, yeah, so there's some cool stuff in here. Severe shake. And you can, I would assume you could modify any number of these. But yeah, so we have that effect on top of all that. And then let's zoom out a little bit, and then we'll scroll back up. And then on top of that, from Footage Crate, but it's actually Production Crate, we have dust particles, which ended up looking like snow the way I used it. So not great, but you know, it is what it is. On top of that, oh, so this dust down there you see blowing across the frame here. All of that is just in post using, again, Production Crate. Just basically just PNG sequences just to kind of overlay it. And as the camera turns, you'll see that all disappears because I have to track all that in. Not the funnest thing in the world to do, especially since I wasn't using any automated tracking. I was doing it by hand because at first I was like, oh, I don't have a whole lot of time, so I need to do this manually by hand because that's how I know how to do it. It probably would have behooved me, looking back at it, to go, hey, go through and watch the tutorials and take some notes on how to have the tracking done for you automatically. I've done it before. I just didn't remember the steps, and I was like, I just do it real quick, and then it ended up being a bigger pain in the ass than it was worth. So a ton of kind of little, oh, the dust poofs on his feet are all put in. Oh, those are the dust blasts here. So you're going to see as he kind of scrapes his feet. Oh, and this is these two are the smoke. So you see the smoke in there. Those are just, again, just tracked manually in from Production Crate there. And you can kind of see it hop around because I didn't have a real good, again, I should have just looked at the automated tool so it could track for me. I was having a hard time figuring out where the smoke was coming from and going to on any given frame. So that was a bit of a thing. But then these are the dust poofs as his feet kind of drag through the ground. I just threw some dust in front of it, little kick dust impacts. And then also as it comes around, there's like that dust pop. So there's a little, this here, I guess, dust blast and impact. Something in here is an electricity pop or electricity spark. And then on top of that is a little dust poof. There you go. And then these are just the raw things I just export out for turnarounds. Anyway, don't know if that was interesting or not, but a little peek behind the scenes. Let me turn that off, sorry. And if I miss any questions, just shout them out again. Sorry if I missed them. Show me how to make hair from XGen to hair card for game assets. I can't because I'm terrible at it. I have people much better than me who do that stuff. But the good news is there's some really good tutorials out there that do just that. Let's see, did I miss something here? Okay, good. Let's see. Sorry. I'm just getting my brain reset for chat. UIW on YouTube made a huge XGen to game hair dye. Perfect. Thank you, John Yu. Yes, Vegas Pro. But I have tried DaVinci Resolve, but the thing is, like, I have Vegas Pro and it's a super fast editor. I can go through and make a ton of cuts, and it works good enough to where I don't really have to jump out of here that much. And I have, you know, the effects are pretty easy to use. So, yeah, certainly nothing wrong with DaVinci. I just haven't had a real need to. There was a situation where I only had access, not too long ago, where I only had access to Premiere. The only reason I bring it up is I only had access to Premiere Pro for editing, and ooh, boy, that was. And again, it was probably me. I probably wasn't able to figure out a good workflow, but I could not. it was like editing in molasses. But yeah, give it a shot. It's, like you said, it's a free version, so go for it. Cool. Oh yeah, and I mean, I have the Vegas Pro suite, so any of the audio effects I need to do, like SoundForge and Spectral Layers Pro and Music Maker and stuff, Sound Deck is not part of that, but they're all in there. But I don't do a ton of sound work. Cool. Anyway, that's just neither here nor there. But anyway, that's the scene breakdown of the bison and the little can guys walking around and the rendering part and the animation. So figured that might be a interesting breakdown. If you did want to see, just as an addendum here, if you did want to see the breakdowns here, again, here's the ZBrush 2021 what's new, but in these ones here, this is kind of the making of. So in here we can say, you know what, so after it gets through the scene, you'll see we basically just start out with a ZZoo character. So it's just that's what I'm looking for. Oh, you know what? I should bring this up. So in here, where I got the idea really was this guy. Let me link you to his art station here. So just looking through his animals, I was like, oh, what a cool idea. And he's so much better than me at coming up with neat ideas for, like, oh, an aquatic animal will have these types of things and little fans and bubbles and little nautical old school lights and, you know, tarp and stuff. And this is a big old heavy oil tanker looking thing, and he shoots flames out. So these were really the inspiration. You know, again, he has like venom things that are kind of super cool. So he's awesome. I kind of did something similar. These are also really cool too, because they're like little clock or little like watch springs you'll see in the smaller animals here, little cords, you know, that type of stuff. So anyway, I was gonna do, oh, you know, you did have a praying mantis. I started a praying mantis, and then I ended up just doing a buffalo because I figured that would work better with the knife tool and the bevel brushes that we had. But anyway, that's where all that kind of came from. So I started with a big old buffalo, went through and just started figuring out, okay, given the Z spheres and stuff, going through and using the new knife tool, which is great, the new bevel brushes, and just trying to break down like a big, you know, he's a bison, so he's going to be big, heavy iron, at least the way I saw it. And then going through here and using the new brushes and stuff. So there's the adjust last and the interpolate stroke. So you know what we could do? We could just go through, and if you have any questions about, let me bring up my notes here. I got all sorts of notes, man. So if there's anything in here, when we did the live stream with Paul, if you wanted to watch that, let me see if I can find it real quick. Stream. So me and Paul and I did a ZBrush special event stream. It is an hour or so long, hour and 27 minutes long, and we go through, see, copy. We went through and we kind of hit the, I guess the basics of the new features in here. So yeah, if I just load up one of those easy ones, chassis demo, stager demo, I guess this one's fine. It's gonna even wait. Is it possible to mask borders of a mesh without changing topology or polygrouping? Yeah. So if we have, if I understand the question correctly, yes. So if you have an open border on a mesh, let's just take these horns for example, and we'll do a quick group by normals. Let's do Shift D to pop it out of. So D and Shift D, of course, is going to take you out of dynamic, and then here's not dynamic mode. And I like to do a quick geometry, modify topology, mirror, and weld to get the same polygroup on both sides. So now we have horns across X symmetry, basically. And if you have, at this point, if you want to go down in here to the masking options, you can say mask by feature, and you can mask by polygroup features, just turn off everything but groups, and then you can mask the group borders. But to your question, if you wanted to say mask, you know, just that open border that's on there, that's just the border operation. So you say mask by features, open border. You can even bring your geometry back, and then just the border is mask. So to make this a little bit more obvious, I'm gonna hit Control D a couple times to give it real subdivisions here. Oops. Let's do a crease or Paul Gabry's there, and then we'll subdue that just a few times. So if I have an open border and we do mask by feature border, that'll mask that open border, and then Control-Shift-Tap to bring it back. Now, if you just have an open border, like if we were to go in here and say delete lower, and then you just say delete hidden, geometry modified topology, delete hidden, and then you just have an open border, then you should be able to just mask by border, and it just masks the open border. And then from there, if you want to grow it, you can, or shrink it, you can. I'm not sure if boost mask is going to do much in that situation, because you're literally just fully masking that vert. So boost and dilute, which are new in ZBrush 2021.7, won't do anything in that situation. But so if you wanted to say, you know what, I want to keep this border, but I want to smooth everything else out, you can see mask by features border. You can maybe grow it a little bit here. You could sharpen it up. And so growing is grow, but sharpening, you can do Control Alt and tap on your object, or you can go in here to sharpen mask. And then those are nice and protected. And then from here we could say, you know, polish by features, open circle, and really just polish the hell out of that. And it would leave my open border alone, but it would polish the rest of it. I have a Intuos, let's show my setup here. Let's see, we're on, this is YouTube. Back. And we're going to say workstation. So here in the description of this video has kind of my setup, and then in there should be what is Intuos Pro Medium Pin Tablet. So anything setup related you can see in this video here. But yeah, it's just a little medium tablet, and this is like, I want to say 2048 levels of, it's an old one. It's a super old one. Carl says, hey Mike, is it just me or does ZBrush 2021.7 not remember the last folder access, especially when exporting images, importing objects, etc.? I have the exact same problem, so I don't think it's just you. I did something I never do, which is there's a new release of ZBrush. Usually what I'll do is I'll do a completely download, complete install. I went to the Z upgrader and then just upgraded it, and I'm wondering, should I do a clean install? Reset everything up, because that's what I usually do from scratch, even for point releases. You shouldn't have to do it for point releases. Z upgrader should work just fine, but I usually do so much weird stuff testing things that I'm just always afraid it's going to put me in a bad state. But I have the same problem. But underneath preferences here, there is a, oh, I forget where it is. Edit? No, why would it be under edit? It would be under like folder or something. Somewhere in here is a, I wonder if it is under export folders. This is another new thing in 2021.7. All that stuff where it's like group, you know, on an export, when you export a bunch of OBJs and you have group turned on or off, I forget, subgroups on. It's gonna, you know, separate your polygroups into separate objects. So if you don't want that, you can turn that off, and that's a global for all of your meshes, so that you don't have to go in here anymore and say geometry export, turn it off. It's all global. Anyway, so that's a new thing. But yeah, somewhere in here is folder and like where it remembers where you want to put stuff, and even turning that on and off, I couldn't quite get it to remember, hey, I just loaded up a Z tool and then I want to export, and then it puts me into like, you know, a miscellaneous ZBrush folder. So I might try to do a clean install today, see if that clears it up. If not, you know, you can put in a ticket, but that seems like it's something that other people have brought up, so they might do another point release to fix that maybe. But not just you. Cool, thank you, pre-drag. If I want to have a mask border around my mask border around my mask, I'd inflate in there for nice seams that change the topology or polygrouping. Yeah, I kind of do that for shirts, if I understand correctly. So you know what, let's do that. Let's go into a comma key. We have a project in here with base bodies, so you can just load these on up, and you can say, let's go ahead and duplicate this off, turn off perspective, turn off floor, go into solo mode, and we're going to say, you know, let's go down to level 1, delete higher. So we have this, we want to make a shirt. So control, mask lasso, and I'm just going to put a little shirt on this guy. We'll take that neck down in the front. I said down in the front, maybe not a V neck, but something approaching it. And we'll hold down control you know, I'll switch back to mask pin. So here's basically our shirt. Hold on, mask lasso. There we go. Okay, good enough. So now I'm going to go down here to geometry, edge loop, mask border, control shift drag, control shift tap. So we just have this, then geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. Then my favorite thing in the world lately, half depth size down to 0, ZRemesher. I ZRemesh everything I do now. And then there's the start of my shirt. And then, okay, so if you wanted to clean up just the masked borders, I do this sometimes. So masking my open borders here, and then control tap to invert that mask, and we'll just run a polish, deformation polish by features, just clean those borders up. You can actually do that before you ZRemesh to get a little bit more of a predictable result. So we have a shirt here. And then if I want to start, you know, putting seams in here, well, if we look at the shirt, like we can kind of see, okay, natural seam would occur here, natural seam would occur here. It actually did a really good job. Like normally I may have to think about being like, well, I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna slice, you know, where I want my seams to be. And then I can go through here and, you know, mirror, mirror, and weld. Oops, we facing the wrong way. No, I just didn't hit mirror hard enough. Mirror, mirror, and weld. And then you can ZRemesh this. We'll do like, same or double, keep group smooth groups down to 0. Then you ZRemesh this, you'll get seams right along here. You may have to do a little bit of juggling the topology, but that's one easy way to kind of get seams in there. If you weren't, let's do double. Give it a little bit more, and it still wants to, well, we can fix this. So we have X symmetry turned on. I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna use, so I got my ZModeler brush. I'm gonna hover over an edge. We're gonna do slice mesh, and then I'm gonna hover over a point. We're gonna do slice mesh, hover over a face, and we're gonna say do nothing. So we're gonna slice from here to here. And then from this one, we're gonna say slice from this, oop, let's get out of that mode. We'll hit space bar. So we're gonna slice from here to just off the shirt here. So that way, you know what, we'll just do a quick uncrease all. So the original shirt would have been fine. You could just literally go and use visibility, you know, select lasso, and you could have gone on the original shirt, just use visibility to put in your seams, just using what geometry is there. This one is if you had to go through and start slicing. This is an easy way. You know what, there probably is. I was gonna say that should have resolved. If ZRemesher's ever like, why isn't it? So if I go through here, say depth keep groups, and it's like, oh, why isn't it doing anything? Like it seems to be stuck there. That might mean that is actually just a really small point. Two ways to resolve that. You can go in here and smooth it and be like, oh, okay, it was 2 points really close together. You can also go in here to geometry, modify topology, weld points, and crank up that weld distance a bit, and it'll weld those together. But in this case, it's even better. So I'm gonna hold down Alt. Hover over face. Instead of do nothing, we'll just put that on Q mesh. Kind of doesn't matter. We're going to start alt painting on these ones, and then as I start painting on these, I'm going to tap shift, and that's going to pick up that polygroup. So that's, now we have nice clean polygroups around here. So now we have areas where we want to mask just those borders and start doing our clothing. So for this one, we'll say Q mesh all polygons, and we'll say shift, just hold down shift, we'll kind of inflate this around. I'm not going to bother doing like a dynamics with a running the simulation with a collision volume, because it's already on him. I don't need to collide with his body, it's already collided. So that would just introduce, unless you wanted to like hang it on him and make sure it was on him, but again, it's on him, I don't need to worry about that. So from this point here, I can go in here to like brush cloth hook. We can go in here and say, you know, start moving his shirt around. Again, I'm not using a collision volume. It's already close enough to him, so I don't need to worry about, collision volumes will sometimes just add noise, basically, which I don't need to worry about. We'll turn off X symmetry here, and if I want to lessen the effect of this, one kind of easy way is to go in here to thick skin, turn that on, move that thickness down, and now you're just kind of moving the shirt over an invisible surface here. So now it's just basically limiting the effect of this brush here. So you can kind of go through here. Honestly, I don't use cloth hook that much unless I need to get something into place, in which case I'll probably use the move brush, and then under the brush elasticity settings, you can turn on simulation iterations. So as I'm using the move brush, it's going to respect those relationships to use the cloth solver to your algorithm to maintain the distances between verts in a cloth-like fashion. So basically what I would do for a shirt in particular, let's turn off dynamic for solo, but I would just kind of go through and be like, okay, I want kind of a fold there. If we don't have enough geometry, just Control D to subdivide, and that's, again, for all you intro to ZBrush people here to learn ZBrush for the first time, which I get enough people going, this miscellaneous live stream, it didn't explain ZBrush in full every time. And I'm like, yeah, how boring would that be? Every time I live stream, I have to explain the basic ZBrush functionality to you. But, you know, I guess in their defense, you come on this channel and I kind of talk about what I'm doing, so it's kind of a tutorial, kind of not. So I guess I'll be fair and say that's my fault. But yeah, I'm not making this an intro to ZBrush course, obviously. So I go in there and I kind of determine, you know, where I want my wrinkles to go. But then on top of these, I can go in with like my pinch brush, simulation iterations up, and then we can go through and we can, you know, crank up the firmness if we need to kind of keep these wrinkles together. But I can enhance the direction of the folds I already have just with a little bit of cloth on top of it. And you could add, you know, gravity, and even if you wanted to like turn on expand as you're doing this, you know, it'll start expanding your cloth as you're using your cloth brushes. Probably want to use a little more of a feather touch with both the values and how you're using the brush. And in this case, I don't really need it. Gravity, in fact, I could probably turn off. I don't need it, gravity going while I'm, you know, doing stuff. But anyway, I digress. This is just making a t-shirt. Now, if I wanted to put seams onto this t-shirt, because again, we already have it beautifully laid out. We have seams in there. Let's go ahead and Control D one more time to get some serious geometry going on in here. And we'll make it so his peck isn't poking through. There we go. So now, let's say I want to go through here and I want to put a kind of shrink in what is it called? This is called seams. So we're going to go through here. Let's turn off line. Then we can go down here. And again, masking our groups border here. We can Control Tab to invert that. We can do a deformation. Yes. Do a deformation deflate. So you can say inflate, and you can kind of deflate those in. And then if you wanted to get kind of the ridges along here, let's go into solo mode. What you could do is kind of the opposite. You could do, what would it be? Think through this with me, everybody. You got to go in here and you want to basically do masking. Jeez. Okay, masking. We want to mask our group's border. However, we actually want to mask kind of around the seam so we can kind of puff it up, right? So what we need to do, and this is from a ZBrush Summit, I forget who did it. The ZBrush Summit did the exact same thing, where it's basically we can grow the mask and then we can sharpen the mask. Again, Control Alt Tap, and that'll give us that border we're going to puff up. And then we need to unmask our group's border. So if I can Control Tap to invert that, and then we say mask by features group's border, that'll go ahead and make it so that our seam isn't grouped anymore. And then you can run a inflate along here. So then you'll have, you know, puffy seams around there. Obviously, again, a feather touch or a lighter touch on this might help, so don't grow it out like crazy. You probably just want to do it quick, so you do this fast. Mask by border, we're going to say grow the mask, you know, maybe even just twice, sharpen it up. That's kind of too much. And again, if you don't have enough geometry, Control D to subdivide one more time. We'll go in here again, mask by features, we'll grow just a bit, sharpen it up, and maybe a little bit more than that. Sharpen it up, and then invert, and then again mask by groups again. And then as we go through here, we can do just a tiny little inflate one by one, and then you can kind of put, you know, your clothing seams around here. And that'll, I mean, you can also do this with like a lazy mouse, and you could go through and just do it manually, but that'd take a little bit. And you could also do, but the good news about that is if you did want to use a lazy mouse, you could actually create a pucker, a rolling pucker texture or something like that if you needed a very distinct like jeans seams along there. We did that on, it's been a while. When did we do that? We did that on that weirdo. This one, the death sculpt. So you can see his jeans here. Oops. Let me see if I can catch exactly where this is here. Making of jeans. So we go through here, we put the clothing on, and then right down the sides, we just do it manually because I'm able to, oh no, we raised that up. Oh, you know what, I didn't quite catch it. I think it's in the bonus content, but I think I create a pucker texture that rolls just down the jean seams, but we did the exact same method to create the seams on the jeans. So anyway, I'll copy this to y'all. And there was another thing too in the ZBrush Summit where instead of using, I want to say, oh, I'd have to go back through my notes, but instead of using like masking, what was it? You could, you know, you can have a standard brush like this, and you could also attach a curve to that. So if we go in here to stroke, it doesn't have to be a standard brush, it could be any number of things. We can go in here to stroke, and we can say curve mode. So now as I use a standard brush, it'll leave a curve behind, and then as I move the curve, it'll create a standard stroke on a curve. So they have strokes like that. Of course, in this mode, we say bend start, bend end, so we can curve, bend start, and bend end. And again, standard brush, maybe not the best brush for that. But the whole point of this, I think, was to go, no, it wasn't that. Because you could go in here and you could frame. So just like we framed or we masked our open borders, you can also go in here with stroke curve functions, frame our polygroups border, and that'll put a frame down here. And then of course you could put an IMM brush if you wanted to put piping or a rubber gasket around your sci-fi tech suit or whatever. You can feel free to do that. But also you can go in here and you can use a brush to kind of pull along. So if I wanted to say, you know, pull, you could also go through here and you could kind of boop, kind of just pull some seams. But I don't think that was what was done. I'm trying to remember what exactly it was, but I'll have to check my notes. I don't know why you only have 100K subs. Your content is always top notch. I think 100K is good for kind of the niche audience. I'd say what would help me more, just based on watching other YouTube videos, is if I started every YouTube with like me doing a selfie getting into my car, maybe driving to Taco Bell, slamming some dew, have some kick-ass, maybe some dubstep or some, I'm trying to think, whatever, like some K-pop playing in the background, and then, you know, maybe some filters over that, and then me entering the room, and then me going, hey everybody, here's ZBrush. If you're going to use, and then for the thumbnail, it would be like my face really big, making a stupid expression, and then like it would be something clickbaity like, the only way you can do cloth in CG, or top 10 cloth things to do in ZBrush. And then I would, let's go ahead and turn off our curve mode for our standard brush. And then I would have like a blurry image of this, like with a big question mark over it, and my face going like, what? And then everybody would subscribe and click because it would be like, what? I have like 5 things I have to know about cloth for CG. I have to know that. And it's blurry, so I can't see it. So let me click on the video and I'll watch it. And I just watched this guy get Taco Bell and slam a do, so I'm going to subscribe because obviously the content is just amazing. And then the actual video itself would be like, did you know in Dynamics you can open this menu and you can go in here with like brush cloth hook and you can do this to your geometry? Oh, it didn't actually work. They actually wouldn't do that. They would edit that out, and they would be like, oh, you know what? Let's make this a little easier so I don't have to explain that much. We can go through here and we'll say what? Geometry, say delete higher. There we go. So now it's underneath the threshold, and they wouldn't talk about that either. They would say, you know, just in case you were wondering, there's the max simulation points in here. You can have a high resolution mesh. I do this all the time where you just hide a piece and then you run cloth simulation on just the visible pieces and it'll work fine. But they would be like, you can use cloth. And maybe even, they might even do this. They might even go like the pinch brush. Turn on pinch brush with simulation iterations. Look at that. And that would be the 5 things you would have to know about CG cloth, or the opposite, where it'd be like, is ZBrush cloth is it worth using? Stupid face. And then you would click on it because I'd have, you know, a big question mark. And then at the end of that, maybe have, hey, everybody, smash that like and subscribe button. But this is all stuff I don't really care about. I don't care if you subscribe to my channel or not. I guess, you know, I guess that kind of makes me entitled in the sense that I don't use this as my primary source of income. So it's more of just a fun thing I do. And this is also why I don't do an intro to ZBrush every time I live stream, or I don't have my stream deck set up, because I don't really care that much. I mean, I do care, but not enough to be like, okay, the best way for me to get to, you know, 250,000 subscribers and then 500,000 subscribers is to really kind of bump up my doucheness. Isn't really appealing to me right now. Now that could change. I'm going to leave that as a possibility in case I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to do this full time, and then expect my production values to go up and probably the content of my videos to drop a bit, if I'm being honest. But hey, man, smash that like and subscribe button, y'all. And then I would hit my button that would be like, bloop. The good news is too, is that I could actually, when somebody does something cool, like drop me some money, like happened earlier with 3D Head Tutor, then I could have like an animated GIF play or something. But I'm not there yet. Let me get cut back up. So anyway, that's one way you could kind of go through and do that. I'm getting miles down, Polygroups mask shape fillet, but I just want to have a line mask around my mask shape. I want to have a line mask around my mask shape. Oh, okay. So you're talking about you have a mask and then you want to have a line shape around it. You could duplicate this off and do a edge loop mask border. Or in this case, actually, it might even be better. It's kind of built for it. Instead of edge loop mask border and manually doing it, there is a groups. You could do groups loops. So we'll say maybe 2, polish down a bit. Oh, it's a groups loops, isn't it? No, let's do Control W, mask, Control W, and then we'll do a groups loops, and that will go through. Did that change all the geometry? Yeah, it smoothed everything out. So let's isolate. There we go. That's better. So in that case, you can isolate this and you can say groups loops, and then you'll have, although let's add a few more. Let's say 3. There you go. So that'll add 1, 2, 1, 2, loops 3, and give me 2. So anyways, I have switch back to select rectangle. We have this thing, and then we have a loop around it. So if you did want to, you know, just grab this loop here and mask it. Of course, this is going to change your vert order. So if you're just, I don't know exactly what the question is. If I have a mask and I want a line around the mask, like if you wanted to like put a poly paint line around the mask, I'm not sure the best way to go about that. I would probably use Spotlight and just poly paint, or just like stamp, you know, go in here and drag rect an alpha stamp of poly paint or a mask. Or if you wanted just a line, you could just go in here, drag rect, you know, a mask line around something, maybe. I'm not exactly sure what the end result you're looking for is, though. Thank you, Tomoya. Does the knife, question, does knife tool work from a free angle? Yeah. So if you take any object, this is doesn't have any substance to it, so it's just going to act like a slice. So not a great example, but we'll hop over to a polysphere. So we have the knife curve tool, and if you guys missed this, this is a huge one. So we have X symmetry turned on. You can work this across X symmetry. You can alt tap twice. So, you know, curve brush basics, Control Shift drag out a curve, use spacebar to move it around, and I let go of Control Shift. And so it's just gonna kind of move around. I can use a spacebar to continue moving it around. Alt tap once to put in a bendy curve, alt tap twice to do a sharp curve. And then as it slices, it gives you really nice geometry, and it slices straight back. It doesn't do the whole, and I guess they have trim in here still, because you can still do like a trim rectangle but again, and I don't know that it works super great, but instead of doing this, where it slices and then closes holes and gives you that result, knife curve is none of that. So again, and it also works across symmetry, different polygroups across symmetry, and it slices straight back. Now, as far as the free angle goes, I guess cylinder might be a better example. Make polymesh 3D. We'll do a quick crease, subdivide, and delete lower. So now, and we'll also change our skin shader for so you can see a little bit better. So as I go through here, I can slice. The trim would actually do a pretty good job, although how it would fill it wouldn't be this regular. It would kind of just do a close holes operation. But if we go through here, and again, I am orthogonally oriented, so I'm snapping my camera. But you can do it any which way if you wanted to kind of go through here and slice however you want. No problemo. So there you go. And let's go ahead and take the yellow here. Let's go ahead and say group by normals, so I can go through here really quickly, and we'll see how that, I mean, this is pretty zany objects. I don't know if it's going to do great. And you know what, these angles, let's see, let's do another group by normal, and this will take that max angle down just a little bit under polygroup, so I can see those edge transitions a little bit better. Yeah, that'll work. So we'll say ZRemesh same, depth size down to 0, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, they're already pretty smooth, and we'll just get some nice new geometry. You may have to kind of fiddle. Are these the same polygroup? That's why. Group by normals. There we go. Let's see if that does a little better job. So again, just kind of dividing up your mesh. Let's do double. I try to throw a little bit more geometry at it to give it an easier time, and then you can go through here and just do manual fixes to kind of help ZRemesher out. Because again, this is a weirdo complex shape, so I'd honestly, I didn't expect it to even do this well. And a lot of shapes that go to like super tight corners, which is tough, you know, because it has to resolve the entire surface. So pick and choose your battles, you know, but you can, I tend to go through here, even if I am going to just use this as a concept mesh, I'll ZRemesh to get nice, not super nice in this case, but better, more predictable geometry, and then continue working. Is there any quick way to create different polygroups on each side of a mirrored mesh? Yeah, it should be. So again, if we have our cylinder example here, and you know what, let's do this. Let's say inset flat island here. So we'll inset this flat island, and then you know what, we'll inset polygroup island as well. And we'll go through here and we'll say Q mesh, polygroup all, pop this out, and let's see, mirror and weld across the X axis here. So this is a mirrored object, and well, I guess this isn't really a great example. Let's go like halfway, and we'll do a quick mirror and weld across the X, mirror and weld. There we go. So now I have a mirrored object, and then we want to do so you already have polygroups and you just want to do different polygroups. So like right now they're the same polygroup, but you want to do different polygroups. There is a new feature maybe for that. You can select these objects. Oops, let's turn off X symmetry. I mean, if you just do a group by normals, it will give you different polygroups based on your normal angle. So that's probably how I would do it quickly. But if you had very specific polygroups already set up and you didn't want to mess with them, you can do a regroup. So you can go down here to new feature, polygroups, regroup visible. So if we go through here and say, you know what, I want to make a change to, group by normals, mirror and weld. So I want to do a group, change groups for, I'm just going to say this side here. So these groups can stay the same. These groups I want to regroup visible, and that will still maintain their polygroup orientation. I think here's a better example. I'm sorry. Let's go in here, BI brush, insert industrial parts, hit Phillips, and let's say we have a big old Phillips screw on here that has its own polygroups. We don't want to mess with those. But we do want to regroup these ones so they're different from these polygroups. So we can take all of these, I guess the easiest way would be like Control-Shift-Alt. Grab these and then just Control-Shift-X, oops, Control-Shift-S to shrink, and then Control-Shift-Drag. So these all has very specific polygroups. You know, this has a polygroup. All these, oops, interior, you know, all this is purple, all this is purple, all this in the inside is green. It'll keep all that. So you can say regroup visible, and then all the purple, it'll change the colors, but the polygroup assignments don't change. So now we've regrouped based on our previous polygrouping. Trying dynamics to make a curtain hanging from a window and using the sort of tie at the center to hold the drapery as it forms like you the curtains. Couldn't figure it out. I kind of did that for something similar, and what I ended up doing was just hanging it from its side initially. That was for the big stage. Did I not post it? Oh, there it is. I just don't have the stage on here. So here's the fish part. And then as we go to the stage here, so here's making of her little fish body. And then, okay, yeah, right here. So as we're creating the curtains for the side of the stage, this is us just hanging the top and then putting a little frill around it. And then this is me, so you can see the curtain is hanging from the side. I have this side masked out and this side masked out. And then I kind of pinch this up and mask that probably, and then I run a simulation on that, and then I rotate it back into place and then run a simulation. So initial hang, side, tilt, you know, rotate it so it hangs down, and then I rotate it back, and then I do a drop with the side and top masked here, and then I'll do another simulation to drop it in that direction. So 2 different drops from two different angles is kind of how I did that. Hey, Adrian. Chris says, Mike, you do know my favorite teacher, Zupersologist. Thank you, Chris. Just by one of your packages explains ZBrush completely. Probably the one that does that the most is ZBrush for concept and ideation. I don't remember where that is exactly. You know, it's probably just on my YouTube channel. There's like 7 parts to this, but the first part is new, Intro to ZBrush for Ideation. So this is like, you know, the part 1, and then there's 7 parts. So if I go in here and we say class, I haven't updated it for 0.7 yet, but these are all the videos in that. So there's unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want to say it's like 300 videos, several hours, and it kind of takes you through a lot of ZBrush functionality. So if you're into that, you can check that out. And then also this playlist. But again, you don't need to buy it. If you just are good at Googling, that works too. And all the new stuff for ZBrush, like, hey, ZBrush 2021.6, 0.7, 0.5. What's new? That's all free. So you can go on here, even on this YouTube playlist here. Again, if you scroll up, this is all the 2021 content. So everything new in ZBrush 2021 just gets stacked into this playlist. Cool. Inflate balloon is better, good for that. Okay, yeah, good point. So we were doing inflate. However, there is a deformation inflate balloon you can give a shot. That'll give you a better result. How'd you export from ZBrush to another 3D app without flattening your sub-D model? Basically not applying the sub-D, but exporting the sub-D. You talking about like sending creases over? That I'm not sure about. You can kind of maybe use, if I'm going to crease in another program, I'll just crease by normal angle and then go through and clean up anything I didn't catch. And then in other programs, you might have crease level ability per component. So, but exporting from ZBrush to another 3D app without flattening your sub-D model, basically not applying the sub-D, but exporting the sub-D. That I'm not sure if I follow. Like, you can apply the sub-D and get actual geometry, or you can not apply the subdivision. The dynamic subdivision is what I mean by that. If you don't apply that, you're just going to be exporting your low-res mesh. Now, if you do have certain crease values, I don't know if GoZ sends over creasing to like Maya. But again, if I'm going to Maya, I'll just take my low-res in and I'll apply my creasing in Maya just based on normal angle, and then I'll do any sort of cleanup, and then I just finish out my model in Maya. I don't generally send back creasing information that much. It'd be cool if you could, I suppose, but I don't. The amount of modeling I do in Maya is pretty sparse, so I haven't done a lot of that. Cool, thanks. Cam Skies, I like trying to pronounce everybody's name. But yeah, thanks for the kind words. We're up to not something. I'm totally happy with my niche audience. Yeah, I should do YouTube shorts. And drone nature shots, good idea. These are all good ideas. I'm going to put these in my notes. Yes. Yes, 10 things you're doing wrong all these years in ZBrush. Stolen. Copy, paste, done. Is there a way to go back into the history and set a morph and then move back to your current point to morph to? Basically, I made some changes and forgot to set the morph target. Yes, actually, there's something really built, and somebody's probably already answered this below, but there's some, in fact, even, you can, okay, so we have an object here, and we have history, so we're going through here, and we're making changes to our object. So we're going through here, and we're sculpting. We'll use maybe clay buildup, and we're going through, and we're sculpting, but we want to maybe set a morph target at some point, but we do have history. So we'll put on a little He-Man thing. I don't know what you call it. Carriage support. And so we've done a bunch of strokes, and we forgot to store a morph target at the beginning. So you can go back here in history here, and you can say, what's the best way to do this? Because if we store a layer, basically what I was trying to get at is you can control tap this point in history. It'll store these vert points. And then when you go back here, you can do brush BHR history recall, and you can, oh, turn off symmetry mode, sorry. We'll do history recall, and that'll actually, it will, I know this is a better example, sorry. We have, get rid of that point in history. Here's the thing. If you want to, oh my gosh, restart ZBrush. All the weirdo stuff I've done. So you can actually take half of your model here. You go to deformation, smart resim across the x-axis to get your symmetry back across a model that has. You don't want to do a mirror and weld because it has subdivision history. So we have this, and then if we actually go in, so if we say here, let's say we want to kind of dig into our mesh for He-Man. We have this. Now, we go back to history where it's just him, and then we control tap that, and we go forward, and then B history recall, and then we can go through here again. Turn off X symmetry because it's camera based, so it's going to want to pull through the mesh. So if you had X symmetry on, it would pull from two angles and give you a really nasty result. So you can actually use history recall brush to kind of go through. And this, I'm not having to hold down Alt or let go of Alt like I would if I was doing a project brush with another subtool. It does both. So it goes in and it pulls out to the surface based on where those vert positions are in space. Now it is just taking that geometry and smashing it flat, so not great in the case of a morph target. So what we could do is we could go, okay, this point in history, I forgot to store a morph target. Go back in history to where you had a smooth guy, and then go forward in history where I have this guy. You can try, I mean, hell, what you could do, since it's only 3 subdivisions, here's a possible way. We're going to say export. We're just going to throw this right on our desktop. We're going to say smooth. And then we're going to go back forward in history, and we're going to say morph target. This is one of those mind-bending questions where I'm like, you know what, if someone's probably in the chat gonna have a better answer than me, but a morph target, we're gonna store a morph target in this state, or you can store a layer too as well. We're gonna go in here to import, and on our desktop, we're just gonna grab, wait, weird. Export. Ah, it went to the default folder on export. It didn't go to smooth. Oh, there it is. It's right there. So if I go back in history to where we have this, and we say store morph target, and we go to import, I went back to the folder. I expected it to go to the desktop, and it didn't, and it crashed. Basically, you would import into that sub D3 your smooth model, and then the morph target, since you're just moving the verts, it would store that as a morph target. But let's see if we can do that a little bit better. Let's go here to tool. Come in, doggy, edit, geometry, divide. So we go through here and we're like clay buildup. And we're like, oh shoot, back here, export, nope. Divide, export, desktop, smooth, obj, forward, morph target, store, import, desktop again. Sorry, desktop. That's why. I went to the OneNote desktop. Oh, I was on my, so stupid. Okay, between them not remembering my folder and then OneDrive existing, I'm about done. I'm about to rage quit. OneDrive, go away. No one likes you. Desktop, smooth, yes. Oh. Forward, store morph target, import, and this is like file navigation problems, which I should not be having. Like what a dumb problem to be having. There we go. So now we're smooth again, right? But now we have a morph target stored with that smooth state. So if we want to do BM, they changed the letter on me. It's not BMO anymore. It's BMG. Go back in with our morph brush and morph this back in, or switch your states, or we can also go in here and do a create diff mesh. So sometimes that comes in handy. In this case, not so much, but sometimes a diff mesh will be a cool thing. Cool. If only for 7 years, you're one of the people who started MeetCG. Awesome. Drunk Shaman, thanks. Glad I could be there, and anything I did was interesting enough for you to be like, you know what? That's a cool thing. Got a question for the new round edges functions. Does it follow the tube curvature? No, basically, like, you know, oops, sorry, let me get out of the morph brush here because it's going to yell at me a lot. Cube 3D, here's one thing too, when I'm using the knife brush or anything like this, is I'll start with a cube, like so, and then in my custom menu, the ZRemesher options, I have detect edges turned on, and we have X symmetry turned on. If that's the case, that slides down to 0 and ZRemesh. And in this case, I'll just do half, just to give me nice, even, quad, predictable geometry, same on both sides, just as a starting point. Then I can divide this up a couple times, delete lower if I'm going to be using the knife brush, and then just go in here. And again, this is just a way for me to kind of keep things predictable and not have like the polarized edges. And then do BBA for bevel arc, and then go back through here, and we'll just bevel these down. And bevel these down. Let's turn off perspective. When I never have perspective turn on. See there, that's why. The dog project or tool had perspective turned on or something, and now I've got knife brushes to go off. So I should probably put that in my video, huh? As a warning, just never have perspective turned on unless you're trying to match a likeness or something. Just keep it off. It's more trouble than it's worth. My opinion. That's the video I should make, is why ZBrush perspective is ruining your life. And then, again, pull a stupid face. So BBA for bevel arc, and we'll go through here. And we'll start beveling these arcs. Now you're seeing I'm only doing it on flat edges. And in fact, I'm not even doing it on these edges that much because, you know, I could go through here and mask, but then how do I make that transition? Actually, it's a good, you know what, let's do this real quick if y'all don't mind. I did end up posting late. I forgot to submit this post, but I'll go ahead and link it to y'all. This props time lapse here. All of these have a turnaround, but basically what I'm looking at is oil pen here. So as of this recording, I can only do it on straight edges. So instead of me using it for all my bevels, what I'll do is I'll kind of, so in this instance, you know, we're gonna make this real quick. So first step, there's another thing too, is you don't even need like a tutorial breakdown. You can just go through here and kind of frame by frame it. So we're gonna go back to our starting point here. We'll make an oil pan like so, and we'll squeeze it down just a little bit here. This is the overall, and this is kind of the bounding box volume of the shape we're gonna make, like so. And then again, ZRemesher or detect edges, and then Control D to subdivide a couple times, delete lower. And we'll use a curve brush. We're gonna knife curve here. So this is the oil pan. It's gonna have, excuse me, a little handle, and then easy enough. And then next, we're gonna go through and we're gonna do our bevel arc. Again, just where it makes sense, just where we can. There we go. So essentially, BBA, BB, and we'll make a nice big brush, and then we'll bevel arc here, and then here, and then I guess this one had one maybe. And on the inside here, this one's already kind of beveled, but if you needed to, you could Control Alt drag and then hold down Alt, and that'll bevel arc across here, but I think that's fine. So that's the first part of the bevel arc. However, I want to have this beveled, right? Well, it's not going to work so great. However, what I'm going to do real quickly is just kind of juggle my polygroup. So all of these can be the same polygroup, just Control Shift Tap and then Control W to select them all. And then again, same depth size down to 0, keep groups on, smooth groups down to 0 on your ZRemesher options. Just get nice predictable geometry is all I'm looking for here. And then at this point, I can go through here and I can say, you can try putting a bevel here with like ZModeler, but I need a little more space in there. So I'm going to go down here to Geometry, Crease. If you just do bevel width, it's going to look at creases and it's not going to do anything in this case. There's no creases. You can hold down Control though, and you can add a bevel in between these. So now that I have a bevel through here, I can now go and round it out, or I can keep it flat. If that's what you're looking for. In this case, what I wanted was an insert multiple edge loops interactive elevation. I can go through here and literally just pull a bevel out and give it the amount of geometry it might need to support that. So there we go. So now I have a rounded bevel. However, this thing needs to be empty, right? Well, let's keep going through the video. Okay, slice and delete. I can understand how on a time lapse that all of this may not be so obvious, but basically what I did was slice here. Actually, hell, let's use knife curve. Forget that it exists. Boom, we just knife curve this, and then Control Shift tap the top, Control Shift drag to invert that, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. You know what, we'll go ahead and we'll Control Shift tap these to make them all one polygroup, and we'll see if ZRemesher can handle just giving me nice new geometry, maintaining those polygroups. It did, so I think we're in good shape. Next, ZRemesh half. I actually ZRemeshed half quite a bit just to get get the resolution down, but honestly, I think this is fine. So now we need thickness, right? So we can say Q mesh all polygons here, and we can kind of pull these in a little bit. Although I get nervous Q meshing on tight corners, so I changed it over to extrude all polygons. Again, intro to ZBrush, everybody. Hover is BZM, ZModeler brush. Hover over face, hold down the space bar, change it to extrude all polygons. If you'd like to know more about the fundamentals of ZBrush, new intro to ZBrush for ideation right here, ZModeler actions. There's a good one. Intro to ZBrush new and updated. Here's another one. If you scroll down here, ZModeler, everything you need to know. I think ArtStation has an intro to ZBrush series I did that covers that. ZModeler was a 2020, was that an IRay? Is that prior to R8? Yeah, that might have been prior to R8. Those are good enough. So go check those out. Again, here's YouTube. Here's ArtStation. And the reason I'm giving you ArtStation because it might be a little easier to look at, although I'm kind of not great at that either. So 2021.5, what's new, etc., etc. If you're looking for point release information. Anyway, back to our video. If I didn't... Oh, stupid. I went off the video. Not super helpful, Mike. Okay, so this is where we're at. So we sliced, and then we zero-meshed half, and then we need to go through, we need to give some thickness, and then also the lip on the outside, right? So we switched over to extrude all polygons. So we're going to extrude these inwards, because I mostly think of the outer volume when I'm making stuff, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, it has to have thickness. So if I went inwards, I need to go down here, display properties, flip, and there we go. So now we need to put a lip around the side. If this line isn't straight enough, you can go through here and you can say, you know what, let's do an insert single edge loop. We'll get rid of it and then go in here real quick and we'll just do a slice. You could also do an insert and hold down maybe shift and that would put a straight line, but good enough, right? And then I need to make this all one polygroup. Two ways to do that. You could hold down Control Shift, go in here to select lasso and then invert it, Control W. Or you can ZModeler brush, hover over an edge, polygroup, polyloop, and then just tap Alt, and that'll cycle through a new polygroup, polyloop. So I think I went out, extrude, polygroup all in this case. Or if you're scared that that polygroup might exist somewhere else that you can't see, just do polygroup island. So we're going to pull this out once. Sorry, there's the edge. So I need to pull this out again. And then I can put holes through here. If that's not enough room, we can, we'll exaggerate it so you can see a little bit better. So we'll put in basically two loops here because what I'm going to need to end up doing is the next step here, which is poking holes down the side. How do I do that? So I go, again, ZModeler brush, BZM, hover over a point. We're going to do a split point here, and then I need them to be all the same size, right? Well, if you do an operation ZModeler and you set the size, you can literally just go through here and just click. And that's the same for Q, mesh, and all that stuff. So, count the spans that you're clicking on so they're all evenly spaced. And then on the opposite side here, it's going to be a little bit trickier. Oops. Sorry. Okay, so right along this edge loop, boop, and then just kind of peek over the corner there. Yoink. You and you. And one of the things I really like about Q mesh is I can Q mesh polygroup all and just pull through and it'll stitch that geode together for me. So I think that's it. Let's see what else we got. Cool. And then we start making the filter. So, and this filter isn't as crazy as you would think either. That's basically, if I go in here, BI brush insert, oh gosh, I guess that was part of the, I'll just show you the start of it. It's, I'm in Booleans, no, it's the model kit. Oh, I added something to the model kit and it changed the icon. I'm gonna hit M to go into this and you're gonna see we have this here, but let's say we started here for some reason because I need to show you something. So we're gonna pull this out and then instead of going up here, you can hit W and switch to gizmo mode. You can go through here and you can scroll through. Now you can use your arrow keys. 2021.7, everybody. Look at that. So arrow keys left and right. Or I can go in here to M. And, oh, thank you. That's really what I needed. Burn my lips. Oh, coffee. Let's keep this brain alive, everybody. M. I guess I can't do M. So in this case, we're just going to go find it. So bad example, or if you don't feel like messing with this, really I just did this to show you, you could do your arrow keys left and right. But here's where I started with this one. So if I do a quick split mask points, enter to ZBrush users, subtool, split mask points. I have this and then I did a quick group by normals. Again, because I like to use group by normals, and then I needed to bend just this part, just this section out here. So what I ended up doing is hit W, you can control tap a polygroup to set that, and then I'm going to say go to unmask, turn off X symmetry, go to unmask mesh center, and then you can try using a taper or something like that, but I think what I ended up using is just going in here to the gear icon and just using a deformer and then just pulling out, oops, like this middle. So Control, you can unmask this middle one, mask this one, and then literally just kind of pulling this out to kind of get a rounded effect here. Like, because that's what oil filters kind of look like, and then just building the rest of it from that. So you can kind of see, okay, round the other back edge out, put some little things in there, and boom, you're done. Easy oil filter, and then there's your oil filter. Throw it through Painter, put some materials on it. Takes you 5 minutes to make an oil filter. Old school oil filter. Rounding the back edge out is easy. Control Shift tap a polygroup with visibility. Control Shift drag to delete it. To invert visibility, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, close convex hole, pull this out, round it off. Control W. If you actually wanted to move this in space, which you probably did, you can just unmask that polygroup and pull it back. So anyway, we never actually finished this out. So at this point here, I'm looking for groups to smooth, and honestly, just real quick, I'm probably going to start with just a crease my Paul Gabry's or my polygroups is what I'm really doing. Sorry, everybody. And we're going to go through here, geometry, dynamic, and then we're going to say, this is where I want to use my crease, my custom menu so bad, because the crease level is down here. So we do a crease level of 2 and a smooth subdiv of 3. That's going to subdivide twice and then uncrease everything and then subdivide one more time. Get you a little bit more light play off the back there. And you can do with that, you know, you can juggle those values as much or as little as you need to. You're going to see we have a few problems here. Number one, if you wanted these completely smooth, well, you can literally just go through here and say, you know what, let me take this polygroup and this polygroup and this polygroup, make them all one polygroup, Control W, and now if I do crease, uncrease all, and then crease my polygroups again, we'll have, now we just have a smooth transition across here. We don't have those polygroups creased on the sides. We also have a problem through here, which is, I think when we were ZRemeshing, it got a little loose through here, and in this instance, it's not that bad. I wasn't paying that much attention while we were doing it, so I wasn't doing a super, what's the word I'm looking for? So I wasn't doing anything great. That's what I'm looking for. We can go through here and we can get rid of these interior loops, and we can say just mirror and weld. And if you want that geometry back, you can go through here and say insert multiple edge loops. Let's go ahead and keep our intro to ZBrush users. Hover over an edge with BZM edge, insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroups so we don't change the polygroups as we put more geometry in here, and then you can just add that back, and now everything's nice and flat. So now we can hit D for dynamic, which again, intro to ZBrush users, dynamic, on and off, Shift D to turn it off, D to turn it back on, and now you got an oil pan. That was creased here, crease PG. D, sorry. Okay. Cool, awesome. No, much appreciated, Drunk Shaman. Keep the features coming. Cool, thank you, Peter Chan. Group sloops. I like group sloops better. Good call. The beat gremlin. We're just Snapshot 3D. Whenever I try to union or subtract an alpha that is tiled via the snapshot tool, the tile cuts do not register. That might be a bug. I don't know. That sounds kind of buggy to me. I can give that. I'm not a super user of Snapshot 3D by any means. If you Google on my YouTube channel Snapshot 3D, it'll give you all the whole breakdown on that. That was a ZBrush 2020 feature, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So if you go down here to ZBrush 2020, what's new? Everybody cross your fingers. In here, there's a lot of cool stuff in this one. That wasn't Snapshot 3D. It was, gosh, was that 2019, 2018? I really don't remember. Yep. 2018. All right, sorry, 2019 was new. So right through here, snapshot basics. So if you're lost that's where you want to go for the big breakdown. And again, probably I haven't really done Snapshot 3D since then, if I'm being honest. So we have an object here. We're going to go into our comma key, and we're going to actually, that's a bad idea. Let's go in here to crease those edges here, and that's on your geometry crease menu. Find it. And then we're going to go in here to our comma key. We're going to go in here to spotlight. You see some hard surface alphas in here, so we'll click those. I'm going to hit Z and then just tap to shrink all these down so I can see them on my newly resized monitor. So if I want to use one of these as a Boolean, I can hit, go into Z, tap Z to go into spotlight mode, Shift Z to turn it off, and then Z to toggle from gizmo spotlight mode to just spotlight sitting there. So if we take this and we move it into place and we want to cut this through, we're going to go through here, and I think we don't want to do a union mesh. We want to do a subtraction mesh. So I'm going to hold down Alt and tap this. Let's turn on my Boolean. And then there's a shift. Is it just tap? What am I doing here? Let's say, okay, you know what I'd have to do in this scenario if I was at home being like, okay, I want to use Spotlight? I would literally have to go and watch my own videos again, because that's just the way it goes, man. I hate that that's the case. Okay, so make sure this is selected, and then I honestly, oh, here it is, Snapshot 3D. So it's not Union, it's a snap. That Union is, okay, I remember now. Union is if you want to, you can actually put other patterns onto other patterns and make new patterns. This is a pattern thing. You can duplicate patterns and you can union patterns together. Snapshot's what I'm looking for. So if I hold down Alt and click Snapshot, that's going to put that to subtractive. So if I do Shift Z, oh, I have solo turned on, that's why. So if I do Shift Z, that's going to punch that through. Now it's not applied yet. It's a live Boolean, so I can go through here and make any changes I want. But that's what's happening. So now the question, that's the basics. When I try to union or subtract an alpha that is tiled, the tile cuts in our edge. Okay, this is getting into some territory that, let's see. So if I tile an alpha, and then I want to union another alpha, let's say I want to take this one here, and I want to make it bigger, and I'm like, okay, union, move it out of the way. Wait, move, oh, wait. Okay. I was able to union. Now, assuming you're talking about alphas, I was able to union. Now, if you're talking about, if I'm union or subtract an alpha that is tiled via the spotlight tool, the tile cuts down. Okay, so that's union, and that's not what you were talking about, I don't think. Now, if I wanted to go through here and do, okay, we have live Boolean turned on, so again, I will hold down Alt and spotlight that through. Seem to register, and really all it's doing, and you could do union or subtraction, but basically you need live Boolean on, because that's going to say this is set to subtractive, but if you want to make it union, just click this over to union. Again, it's a live Boolean, so if I make this bigger, now this Boolean would union. If I ran the Boolean operation, it would subtract this one, and if I wanted to do it later in the stack, just put it down here, and that'll Boolean through later, or at least it should. What's going on here? Oh, it's not going out far enough. If I go into solo mode, this stops prematurely, so I need to cut through, make this a little bit bigger, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just scaling this non-uniformly in that direction. So now, again, if I go up here, it's going to have a cylinder. It's going to subtract this shape, and then it's going to add this shape. Well, if I want to add the shape first, just move it up in the stack, so it's going to add and then subtract. It seemed to work on my end, and if you want to actually apply this, you go down here to Boolean and say make Boolean mesh, and then here's your U mesh. So works on my machine. Painted with a material in half my model skin shader 4. The rest is also filled skin shader 4. When I switch to say matte cap gray, the painted half stays skin shade. I need to keep my colors, but have it all one material. You can reset a material assignment by going, let's say I have a skin shader 4, so we're at mRGB. We'll make this a red color fill object here. If you wanted to reset this, because now if I go through here and I say, oh, pick droplet, oh, dang it, now I have to fill it with droplet material in order to see it. So I do this and I say, let's just do this color fill object. With M turned on, now I can change material. However, if you go over here to flat color and say color fill object, I hope this is the case because I'm gonna feel stupid if it's not. Now when I go through here and choose another material, it's going to reset that. So it basically resets your material assignment if you fill it with a flat color. So now you're back to no material assignment on your object. And it's not affecting my RGB, by the way. So if I'm in here and I've got RGB and I'm like, oh, let's paint some blue and let's paint some green. Oh, I want to, oops, Z add off. Green, blue. I was like, oh, you know what? I want this all to be skin shader 4 material. That's just to have M turned on and then color fill object. And now skin shader 4 is assigned to the entire object and your poly paint is fine. So I think that might fix it. But I don't think I've had that issue. But I don't do a tremendous amount of poly painting or material assignments in ZBrush, I'm being honest. I'll do ID assignments. Oh, in fact, if you want to see that, let's open that up. So before I threw it all into Maya so I can animate it, I threw it through Substance Painter, and there's a V-Ray export. Oh boy. Save file. Give me a sec. Oh, that's not going to be in there. I forgot. Man, changing folder names prematurely. I should have left it alone until I did my live streams. Okay, hold on a second. File, open. Give me this. We don't need battle bots. We need, and those, by the way, those battle bots are extremely old. If I go to my YouTube channel here, like I made those, yeah, these bots that you saw in the video, barrel bot. That was 4 years ago. I made those barrels, by the way. So if you want the live stream on how I made those little goofy barrel dudes, here they are, how I made them. Now, again, this is 4 years ago. So if you see me doing something where it's like, well, why didn't you just use the knife brush? Well, obviously, the knife brush was just a twinkle in Alfair's eye. So that didn't exist. But we can say shop, copy, boom, barrel bots. Bears. Battlestar Galactica, barrel bots. Let me go here to Bison real quick. Jumper cables, funnel, buffalo. Guess we'll just open up the autosave. How can you quickly round the edges of the cut segment without affecting the rest of the geometry? Pretty. You can just bevel arc should do the trick. Here's the Substance Painter, and in fact, even in the shader here, we have the V-Ray material metallic assigned, so I can get a good read on what that would be. And then through here, we're on the accessories. So let's, you know what, let's just look at the accessories here. So here's the accessories just kind of sitting on the inside. Here's just the armor. So here's kind of the armor plating sitting on the outside. All of this stuff is just layered on. So if I go through here and just kind of, let's click down through. Oh boy, I did more than I thought I did. This is pretty intense. License plate, close, steel can painted, rubber tire, registration. Whew. Okay, so oops, I'm on accessories. Stupid. I should have noticed as I was clicking through here, nothing was disappearing. So we'll let armor load up and we'll take you through. I mean, the accessories actually might be more interesting to look at because, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on in any one of these individual things, but here's the base. And then on top of here, this is just something I have sitting underneath. So if there's something scratches to nothing, this is what it'll pick up. So usually something pretty neutral and dark and not shiny is what I'll go through. Add some still rough. This is still rough instance that I'm using. So you can instantiate across an asset. So if you have a big Bison full of a bunch of different parts and you want to use the same still rough across all the parts, you can take still rough and you can right click and you can say instantiate across texture sets, and you can say, you know what, I want that to show up on everything, and then you can pick where that goes. And if you have material IDs, it'll go exactly to the same material IDs if you're consistent with your material IDs. Anyway, not sure, registration should be on here. So here's rubber tires on there. Let's go back Steel cans. So here's the painted steel cans, the license plate here. So here's the license plate. And honestly, I wouldn't do this. I embossed. I actually had the model and I baked it out. Don't do that. Just put it on a height layer so you can change the text on the fly. Because if I ever wanted to change this, if they're like, actually it's ZBrush 2022, I'd have to go back to the model, get rid of the 21, put 22 in there, bake it back out. If it's not changing the silhouette that much, or in this case, I don't really care if it does or not, just stamp in like this stuff here. So we go in here to the license plate and we say license text. License plate. Paint height. So here, on or off. I can turn it on and off, or if I remember like, it's too high, I can go down here to the height information. I can say, you know what, little less, or I want it beveled, I want it embossed inwards. No problem. Easy to do. I don't have to go back to source. Pick and choose your battle. On top of here, we got parkerized gunmetal tire, raw iron damage. These, I shouldn't even be showing you this because it's not that well organized. Oh, chrome blue tint. This is kind of fun. So we have an exhaust pipe, right? So going in on top of this exhaust pipe and then painting in, oh wait, no, that's just chrome blue, sorry. Heat stress. So this is all just painted on there. So you just go through, I think this is set to, it's set to normal. You could set this to another type and actually get that heat stress to, you know, kind of play with that metal, but essentially just kind of going through there with my purples, my oranges, and making it look like that metal is stressed in there. Registration, that's what I was looking for. So this should, again, not super well organized, but here, this is all just painted on there. So here's a little California registration. And I just think we skipped some metal cables, cable AO. Just these were kind of a pain because I didn't set them up correctly. Like if I was doing this for production, I would make sure all the UVs were unitized and I could tile something straight through. I didn't do that. This is just a chunk of geometry here, so I had to finagle this. This was a little finesse work just to get something usable for the cables, but it is what it is. Rust, dirt, there we go. And then back here, this one's actually simpler. This was more of just, you know, steel painted wear and tear. So if I wanted to go through here, here's the steel painted red here. And then if I alt tap here, nope. Let's wait, let's just let this load. Okay, so this is all the steel painted reds going to just those material IDs. And again, that's just a matter of color selection. So right click a mask, say add mask color selection. You can't see that, but it exists, I promise. And then you just pick where you want that to show up. So when I go through here, it's like, you know what? This is the material IDs that I bake out of ZBrush. That's it. That's the amount of poly painting I usually do in ZBrush is this. Now, if I'm doing organic stuff, maybe I will. And then this paint here, so this is wear, and this is being driven by sunlight. So I have a light in here that's dictating, you know, where the sun direction is. So basically, if this bison's been sitting out in the sun for a long time, he's going to get faded from the direction of the sun. So that's where this material is showing up. So you can see it gets a little duller, a little more washed out. And again, that's all being driven by where this light goes. So as I change that light direction, it's going to change where the faded part of the material goes. Paint, base metal. So here's the paint chips for this, and then this is being driven by just a mask builder. This is usually more than I usually do. Usually what I'll do, and this is part of the smart material, but if I go in here and say add a generator, if I'm just feeling whatever, go in here to metal edge wear, and we'll say we'll multiply this through. So we can add our edge wear here, and then we have a wear level. So we can go through and change the amount of wear, and I think we have to invert this actually. There we go. So as I increase that wear level, it's looking at my AO, it's looking at my curvature map, and it's going through and dictating how much wear we're going to get the higher this goes. There we go. So now it's getting more worn and more worn. Oh no, we got to repaint him. And then as I drop this down, it'll kind of, and it's doing both levels of wear too. So if I turn off the manual paint layer wear and just metal edge wear, this is the wear level. We're actually getting this set to multiply now though. So we'll set that to normal. So here's no edge wear, factory fresh-ish. And then as we drag this up, you're going to see it's going to start wearing in from the corners and stuff. And then on top of this, you get out of paint. So we could add a paint here, and then you can manually go in with a brush here and say scratches, and then go through here and just start scratching it up. So, and you know, you don't want to just do it randomly. You want to think about like, okay, looks like there's a handle here. Some robot barrel bot farmer may go in here with a pickaxe and jab it through here to open the handle. Then there will be more wear and tear, where wear and tear is more like inclined to happen. You know, where things are going to move, scrape against each other, or where somebody else is going to go in there and take a pickaxe to it. But yeah, and then all the painted stuff, that was all just hand done. So here's steel painted yellow. And again, this is, you know, so I don't have to go back to source to bake it out. I think steel painted red, steel painted yellow. Maybe. Oh, know what? Still painted yellow is actually back here. I just put this as, so just to kind of break it up, and so it's not all like somebody had to take a panel from another one that was painted a different color. But the actual paint itself is, so here's the white paint, and this is like a decal thrown on there, just with some alpha here, and then white paint number. Oh, this should actually be yellow paint. So here's the yellow paint number. If I alt tap here, it's literally just brushed out with some paint brushes, some splatter brushes, or some splatter alphas that I had, and then just a little bit of height. So in here, if I don't like the height or it's not too much, I can decrease or increase that paint splatter height as needed. And then export all this out with the V-Ray preset, File, Export Textures, and then wherever it needs to go, V-Ray next, Metallic Roughness, and then plug that into my materials in Maya. And when I'm all done, show all, if you just wanted to do a quick hop into, I mean, you have access, you know, you can turn shadows on in here, you have your emissive in here. So if we wanted to go through here and be like, you know what, let's make that pop a little bit. Let's go down here to Post Effects, Glare. Go ahead and turn this on, and then we'll say, just set this to bloom, and then change these factors a little bit here. So as things get emissive or very light, they'll start to kind of bloom out. Now we don't have a ton of emissive on this, but we can go down here to, is it on here? Or is it on the shader? It might be on the shader. Reflection, emissive intensity is what I'm looking for. And I assume it's on this material. I don't know why it wouldn't, unless they were just like, if you're using V-Ray Metallic, you wouldn't need it. I don't see it. That's not a huge deal. Let's go in here. Let's change it from V-Ray Metallic. I'm just seeing if that's the case. PBR Metal Rough. We don't have any opacity. And then in here, sorry, I'm doing some investigation. I might have just missed it. There's emissive intensity. So if I crank this up, now you're going to have some real headlights. Bam. So now we've got a little bit of post effect in the glare, which is all being done in the screen space. So if we go back here and we turn on and off our glare, you can see that's the emissive that we're getting. And then from here, you know, you got shadows and all that good stuff. You can also just hop right into IRay. So that little camera up here, and put them on the beach. Rotate that around and just get a nice beauty shot. Oh man, look at that. Inspirational poster. Motivational. Like, hang in there. So screenshot that. Make a motivational saying, you know, the big black border. And think of something motivational about a mechanical bison on a beach with a sunset. My actual speed, my actual speed when I'm just kind of getting stuff done. This bison took me, I want to say their total recording time was about 16 hours. And again, like I was told Paul in the live stream, 8 hours of that was just me messing around with shapes and being like, I don't know, what's this? Well, how does this thing made? What does this head need to look like? 8 hours of actual, like, if I knew exactly in my brain, if I was like Mozart, just taking dictation out of my brain and just applying it to the screen, this stuff goes really, really quickly. If you're just applying technique to exactly what you want to make and how it needs to look, a day. you know, again, 16 hours total recording time, which means, okay, you're probably not seeing 4 hours of gathering material reference, thinking, turning things on. Oops, I forgot to hit record for an hour. You know, that kind of happens. But let's say 20 hours of total sit down and do it time. And then 8 of those hours is going, I don't know. Does he have headlight eyes or does he have not headlight eyes? Does he have 4 eyes? Does he have 6 eyes? Does he have 2? Does he have exhaust pipes? What do exhaust pipes look like? Okay, let's go look up exhaust pipes. What do his hooves look like? I don't know. Let's make a hoof shape and then carve some stuff in and put some bolts on it. That's what I kind of ended up doing. And that's where a lot of time is spent. There we go. Now we can see it. And anyway, yeah, this is using just the built-in IRay Render. I agree. Inside, the new knife brush is truly amazing. How would you export from ZBrush to another 3D app without flying? Oh yeah, that one I didn't really know. Flip the 3D object just to see or check the proportions like in Photoshop. Oh, that's a good one. You can mirror, but that mirror is only going to be applied to a single object. So if I have... Boy, we just got ugly stuff to look at, don't we? Let me do a quick load just so we have eye candy on the screen. Again, you gotta smash that like and subscribe button. I gotta have eye candy on my screen at all times. I should probably have some fat beats playing. Let's see, streaming. Nope, we're down here on Bison. Bison chassis demo. It's good enough. So if I wanted to mirror, I'll show you one way you can do it. So let's go ahead and turn off samples here. So we have a big old Bison. He's 160, he's 13 million polygons here. And I just wanted to check like what he looks like mirrored. Well, you can do it for an individual object here. I'm trying to find something that isn't mirrored. So here underneath his head here, let's go ahead and turn off his armor. So underneath his head here, you see he has a little cloth covering. And there's actually a lot of stuff going on in here. I guess it shouldn't be that surprising, but let's see, cloth. Open it up, man. Let me see it. Let me select it. Why are you doing this to me live? Making me look like an idiot. There we go. Cloth cover. There it is. So you can see this cloth cover, and then we have the extruded around the cloth cover. Then we have these rivets, and then on top of here, we should also have some ties. I did actually try and go through while I was making this and try to make it make sense. So somewhere, I think under accessories maybe. Or no, you know what? It's part of the tubes. I don't think it's part of the armor, but anyway, there's ties around here through the rivets. There's one you can kind of see over here. And I don't know why I can't select just this thing. That's so dumb. Anyway, basically, if I wanted to see an asset mirrored, in this case, what I think I'd have to do is temporarily go through here and we'll turn off samples. Let's say I want to see, just to make this easier on my machine. Not that I can't do it, but I'm live streaming, so I don't want to go nuts. So let's like, okay, I want to see the armor and the hood mirrored. Well, you can do a really quick merge visible and then hop in here and then just do a quick mirror, deformation, mirror across the X. And then that'll flip it. I don't know why I picked the world's worst example to show that, because that's actually still mirrored. I guess you can go in here to projects. I did get blasted on YouTube for this. I'm tired of seeing this Z project used for all the demos. I'm sorry, he's not mirrored. It's just easy, right? So again, if I want to see him mirrored really quickly, unfortunately, I don't think you can go in here. So here's move multiple. You can move multiple subtools at a time, or you can just choose which subtools you want to move at a time. But I don't think there's a move multiple, mirror, and flip. So what you can do though is again merge visible here, and then you'll have him merged, and then you can just do a deformation mirror across the x-axis. Okay, delete lower, mirror, boop boop meet boop bop. Oh, sorry, I'm so behind in my comments. I apologize. I'm like 40 minutes behind in the comments. Let me just catch up. GoDZ does not send crease last time I checked on the actual jail. Yeah, that makes sense. Pre-drag. I assumed that was the case, but oh, thank you. I am John. Let me reply to this real quick. You rock. you so much. There we go. There's a way to go back into history instead of morph and then move back to your current morph too. Basically, it may change. Oh yeah, that I tried to do earlier. Basically, I exported the clean stage and then came in, set a morph target, imported that clean stage. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head. I live in Austin, Texas. Yeah, exactly. The OneDrive desktop. I accidentally was like, oh, desktop, click, and then was a OneDrive desktop. I'm like, oh, okay, close that. I guess I can go into my, I'm sure Microsoft has OneDrive tied into like a kernel. I have to go into my registration to get rid of it, but. Bevel brush similar to the smooth brush. It's a little more controlled than the smooth brush. Thank you, the Beat Gremlin. Can you use Interpolate Stroke to slice, curve a mesh into even polygroups? Interpolate Stroke. That's a good question. Let's try it. Hey, that's all I do really is like, well, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. So we can slice curve. Now you're going to see we have replay last and replay last relative. That's always been under the stroke menu and actually really handy. So again, if let's do this. Let's do slice circle, and we go through here and we want to slice a circle through here. Well, let's say I want a perfect circle. So let's choose. That's a cool effect. We have wax cranked in the scene. Let's do square. Oh, no more center, huh? Okay, so we have square here. So I'm going to do a circle slice. Let's hit Control D once and then delete lower so we can do this. You can see a little bit better circle. So there's a circle. If I want to do the exact same size, well, then I got to eyeball it, right? Well, if I do this and then I do replay last, if I do replay last, it's just going to keep slicing in the same spot. If I do replay last relative, which is Shift 1, it's not popping up. Replay last. Uh-oh. Am I in a bad state? Or did this project do something weird? Usually when you hover over these, you'll see the hotkey. And it's not even giving me help menu anymore. Great. Well, let me restart ZBrush real quick. But basically, replay last is going to replay last in the exact same slot. So if you sculpt something and you replay last, it'll just keep building that up. Now you don't really have to do that because you can just do adjust last for that. And you can go up and down, in and out. Replay last relative, Shift 1, you can move your brush around and then just repeat that thing. So maybe if we do Control Shift slice here, and then you can just do Shift 1. So here's this. So I guess you need to keep your brush here. So that doesn't really work, does it? You can do Control Shift and then spacebar brush radius, and then you can set escape Q. Set that inner focal shift to go through here, but yeah, you're gonna have to eyeball it, right? Slice. Seems like there's an elegant solution in there somewhere. I just don't know exactly what it is. I'll keep thinking about that one. That's a good one. Well, the question was, can you use Interpolate Stroke? So if you're not aware, Interpolate Stroke is basically, I can go through here with standard brush, and let's turn on just Z add here. Let's switch back over to just the starter material. So, and turn on perspective. So we have a stroke this way. So here's a stroke, and here's a stroke, and then Control Shift 1 will interpolate between those. That's underneath stroke. Interpolate. And then of course, again, if you brand new to ZBrush and or you haven't really caught up because it's new and understandable, right here in ZBrush 2021, what's new, go in here and right down in here, somewhere in here is like an Interpolate Stroke. Bevel arc, bevel flat, knife brushes, bevel and knife, geometry stager, adjust last, stroke interpolate. Video 89 will take you through that. So we'll go ahead and post that. And I'll give you the basics or more information on that specifically. However, you can also use it. So like BI brush insert industrial parts here, and we'll say, you know, small to large, Control Shift 1, and you can put, 10's not enough, or 10's too many, strokes count 5, interpolate. There you go. But now the big ones, they're packed too close together. Open circle, relative. Now they're all evenly spaced, again, based on size. Cool. However, let's take this, oops, here, delete hidden, and let's say Control Shift. Again, we're trying to say, okay, Control Shift slice here. Oops, let's turn off brush radius. Slice, slice, interpolate, interpolate, interpolate. No. Let's see. Slice, slice, same direction, interpolate. It did something, but then it moved it so it didn't actually slice through here. I wonder if I could slice small and then... No, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. That's a good one though. Like if anybody figures that out, that's I don't know how often I'd use it, but like that would be a cool thing. I really wish I didn't have that Kelly Bundy syndrome where every new bit of information pushes something out old. I'll never memorize all this. It takes a long time for me to memorize stuff, and like I said, like even the spotlight stuff I had completely forgotten. It took me a bit to get back into that because I don't use it that often. So good question, odd concoction. I can't really think of anything that would do that. Yeah, ZModeler's fun. And that's what it is. The beat gremlin is, yeah, forcing yourself to use it, and just it'll click eventually. The clicking, sometimes it takes 2-3 years for something to click for me, and sometimes it clicks overnight. It's hard to say when that's going to happen, but rendering tools besides KeyShot for those who can't afford it. Blender Eevee and Cycles was free. Yeah, use that. But I mean, gosh, I'd used V-Ray and Maya just because I'm animating in Maya, and then I did product rendering for AMD when I had V-Ray. So I was like, well, I might as well just use V-Ray while I have it. So while I was in Maya, I just had the V-Ray plugin already for the product rendering I was doing, and I was just, hey, go ahead and use it. So I don't know. In my case, it was cheaper because I had it, but I can understand. Yeah, there you go. For that, I'd import the model so that you can KeyShot something else. Replay last relative doesn't work with stroke interpolate. Sorry for the tangent. Thanks. No, that's a good one. I didn't even think to try that. So let's try that again. So slice circle here. So I slice this, and then I want to replay last relative. Oops, that's just Shift 1. Duh. Okay, so we're going to slice a small circle. Well, let's slice a small circle, slice a large circle, and then Control Shift 1. It interpolates 1 in the series. It just doesn't do the rest. That might, I don't know. It seems like it's on the verge of working. However, like we were saying, if we do, I want to do this, and then I want to do replay last relative. Shift 1. I'm not expecting this to work at all, but I'll do a brush stroke after this. Interpolate. Yeah, it just does the first one. Okay, so let's switch over here. Oops. Oh man, I'm in that weird scene still. We'll turn off line. So we're brush stroking, right? Let's change this over to drag rect, put it in alpha, drop that focal shift down. Now, normally I would like, oh, let me dial in the Z intensity. Is it too much? Is it too little? Remember, boom, and then adjust last. In, out, more or less, whatever you want. So that's a really cool feature. However, I want these to be the same, so I'm going to say drag dot, and we'll say Control D. So we're going to put one here. Let's turn off L. So I'll put one here. I want to put one here. Control Shift 1, interpolate. Boom, it works. However, if you do this one and then Shift 1 to do replay last relative, and then Control Shift 1, yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. In that instance, I would see if I can do, just see if I can get a stroke that'll work, and then two strokes will do it. Replay last relative seems to kind of throw it for a loop. Good one. I didn't think about trying that. And if there's studying anatomy, I know some courses, but they're so comprehensive, a bit hard for me to follow up with them. This is an interesting question for me because I've been studying anatomy for 20 years, and I'm still very much studying anatomy. I'm far from being a master. Although I will say probably 15 of those 20 years I wasn't really studying anatomy. And even now I don't study it that hard. I will say I do have a slight semi-resource for you. Let's go down here to bookshelf. I actually need to update this. I got some new books. Obviously books I haven't read, but here's my bookshelf, and you can go through here. There it goes. Kind of clicks in. So here's the anatomy area. There's some anatomy in here, and then there's a lot of anatomy along this shelf here, and then there's some erotic manga below that. But most of the anatomy is probably in this area, mostly on this thing here. I would say out of these, there's some people that I wish I could be like. I'm not saying this in a derogatory way. I'm saying this, if it's a derogatory to anybody, it's derogatory to me, which is I wish I could go through Bridgman's drawing from life, copy the drawings, understand them perfectly, and then just be an awesome comic book artist. I know some comic book artists who are like, yeah, I just went and drew from Bridgman, and then I'm just the most amazing anatomist in the history of the world. I'm like, yeah, not me. That did not work for me. So I did that, and I didn't know anything. The way my brain works, or I don't know, the time and effort I put in, I don't like guessing. If I don't know something and I have to guess, I guess terribly. I'm just not good at it. So it's kind of a mix for me. It's, do you want to learn, the foundation? Do you want to learn the bones and the landmarks? And then you want to learn surface anatomy? Do you want to learn both at the same time? Do you want to start with surface anatomy, like figure and gesture, and then dive into, well, here's how the figure moves and I can observe it. Now, why does the figure move like that? And why do these bumps and curves and flat parts happen on the body? I would assume that's probably the best way to go. Proco's kind of set up like that, where you take anatomy and it's kind of more gestural and figure and volume and shape and form and rhythm. And then it goes into, well, here's where the bones are. Here's where the muscles are. Here's where the tendons are. Here's why the figure looks like this when these things happen. Atlas of Human Anatomy for the artist is a good one. Bridgman's obviously, there's 3 Bridgman books in there. It didn't do me much good at the time, because I didn't know how to look at Bridgman effectively. And that was on me. That wasn't him. It was me going, I don't know how to use this. Until I went through, okay, here's landmarks, here's the setup. And what helped me was I just got done with a Scott Eaton course, 2 Scott Eaton courses. The figure Scott Eaton course, and then the head Scott Eaton course. And for the head Scott Eaton course, I guess I can bring these up too. I made some cheat sheets for myself, and it was just a way for me to watch the videos and apply the videos in the round for myself, because I'm a 3D artist and I use ZBrush a lot, so it was easy for me to go through and say, do a, while we're talking about, while going, sorry, let me close out of ZBrush real quick. I just got to dump memory. We've been doing a lot of weird stuff in ZBrush, and actually we don't need this anymore, do we? Give me a second. So, recording. How are we doing on time? Oh man, we're over time. Oh, we go. We'll be fine. Eaton. So, while going through his course, which was very much, here's why these things happen in a very detailed way. And this actually helped me immensely for the way my brain works. It wasn't just, here's an idea. It was more like, here's exactly why these things happen. And for some reason, that cemented it in my brain a lot better than vagaries, where it's like, okay, you take a sphere, like the Loomis thing, where it's like, okay, you take a sphere, shave the sides off, find the construction method. I could do it, kind of, but then the rules sometimes didn't make sense to me in certain situations. Whereas when I went through the Scott Eaton course, it was, the rules are set up on a foundation and a structure that doesn't change that much. And once you understand that foundation and structure, and it's detailed and it's intense, but at least I know now. And for me, and maybe for you too, studying it once doesn't help me that much. Like I'll study, let's say I study intensely for a week, and I'll read in all of it. The whole human body anatomy is a lot, but let's say 6 weeks. 6 weeks human anatomy, or 6 weeks face anatomy, and let's turn all this stuff on here. Let's see, I got everything. Got some, here's the fat places here, and even in here we can turn on all this stuff's labeled, kind of where all these stuff has, and then here's the actual head. This is from 1024, so I kind of fit it within this framework, and I took a skull and I molded it to the head, and then I popped his ear off, and all the things are labeled and, you know, all the things we discussed, so I can see it in the round and use this as a cheat sheet. So if I'm drawing something, I can kind of position it here and then like do a see-through in Photoshop and just have it available to me so I can keep referencing back to the structures, the forms, the volumes, and the names. But even doing that for 6 weeks, I retain, because I'm the brain, my brain is the way it is, I retain, I don't know, 5%. So if I study for another 6 weeks, I might retain for another 5%. So if I did that consistently for a year, I might be retaining like 65%, and I'd be doing really well. That's nothing to sneeze at. But you know, if I let this go and I don't study it again, and then I come back and it's like, oh yeah, facial anatomy, what's that all about? That 5% I retained starts dropping over time, and now I'm back to like, yeah, I remember the basics, but do I really understand it and remember it? And that too. And then there's also, this is an interesting one too. So thinking about, and again, I'm not going to give away his trade secrets or anything like that. Like if you want to take his course, by all means take his course. That's where you learn it. This is all just my cheat sheet stuff. So if I turn on polyframe here, line, we'll go in here to skin shader 4, and I'm going to go in here to render, render properties, and we're going to say, I need to turn on, what am I looking for here? Render properties transparent. So when I go through here and I hit BPR render, you can see, I can see the construction lines of the egg shape of the skull. It goes around, and again, because I can use ZBrush and I can think in the round, I'm able to put together a little cheat sheet. So if I want to match something or be like, how is the skull constructed? Where are all the relationships I'm looking for when I'm drawing a skull? I can have this available to me. I can even hit BPR render, and I have the planes and all the basic shapes and even the construction lines all the way through, so I can think constructively. And then now, once I've done that, then I'm a little more confident when I do a Loomis method type thing, where I go in here and I'm saying, okay, let's go through here. Let's turn this on real quick, here and here. There we go. So it's a bit bigger. Ugh, sorry. I didn't mean to make that sound. That wasn't a, ugh, I don't like that brush. That was just a ballpoint pen that I wasn't expecting. But we'll just start simple. So brushes here, and all the way up, all the way up. Yep, general Kenobi brushes, hard round, on. Okay, so now if I'm going to do Bridgman construction, where okay, start with the sphere and then chop off the sides, and then here's the brow line. Now I can be a little bit more, what's the word? Confident in where these things go, because I'm thinking about the actual construction. So if I need to put in the brow ridge, and sorry, I'm way out of practice for drawing, obviously, but now I kind of have a better idea of how the skull and the orbits work and where the curves and the orbits happen, and, you know, kind of putting these back and forth, and where the cheekbones end up happening. So all the framework and structure is a little bit more cemented in my brain. So when I start doing Bridgman stuff, I can think better constructively, as well as, you know, as we start constructing the head and dropping the lips down and making sure the lips are curved over here, and how thick the lip thickness is on a character, and where the fat pads are, malar fat pads, and how these, you know, these things kind of, and how the eyelids wrap over here in the inner and outer canthus of the eye. And I don't remember all the terms or anything like that, but if I did continue to study from my notes and then go into my books, you know, all of that stuff, and also where the orbit starts and where the fat pads for the eyeballs or the eyelid or the, you know, the roof fat and the fat underneath the eyes, why that happens. As opposed to, generally speaking, here's a fun rule for like on a 3/4 head, if you make this shape, then you'll get a freebie. Well, what if the head turns slightly? What if it's up from the bottom up or the top down, or, you know, it doesn't fit within that neat little rule set? Then I need to be able to make a good guess, and I need to know why these things happen. And some resources that's not readily available. But, you know, now it's like, okay, yeah, I can go through here. I can construct a face fairly easily. You know, I'll attach a neck here and, you know, all that good stuff. And then we'll drop that opacity down. And then even through this, it's like, okay, we got a male face. So let's say we want to go through here and say, okay, male face, the head's going to tilt, or the cranium. Again, he'll talk about like the bell curve of like where things sit. Again, take his course, highly recommended. for the averages. But, you know, if we want to turn this into, you know what, we don't want to super, we'll super beef this guy out. So big, heavy brow ridge here, big, deep set, you know, squinty eyes here. We'll give him the old Clint Eastwood. And then, what else? Here, and then a big old chin, big flared, strong jaw here, and thin lips, you know, and then a big old, give him that Roman nose here. So we'll hyper masculine this guy. This is the thing too, where it's like, okay, in here, am I going to start dialing in half tones? Am I going to go through here and, gosh, let's drop this down here. Let's do Shift 1 here. So we can go through here and we can start, I don't know. We'll put in a tone there. Oops. And then on top of here, let's say drop this down just a little bit here. So oops, I'm gonna Shift 7, let's say. So now through here we can be okay. Let's really get going with this guy. So here, and then big old Tom. He's hyper masculine, right? And the most, we got to go Tom Selleck if we're going hyper masculine, and then maybe a little receding hairline. You know, widow's way buried widow's peak through here. Blah 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 blah. And then for the features, you know, this ear is going to turn in. And again, like the ear construction, you can come up with little cartoon things where it's like, oh, put a question mark and a thing. And then it's like, okay, that'll generally work for an ear. Or, you know, why does this ear turn, you know, this direction? And then this helix and anti-helix and tragus and anti-tragus and all that stuff, you know, this pops up, and then you have a better idea of the ear construction regardless of where it is in space. And also the masseter, you know, you get a line here. Well, it connects, here's the cheekbone here, it connects underneath the bottom of here and then down to the corner. So that's where that line goes. I don't put it here, I don't put it here, I put it where the line should go based on, you know, where that stuff is. So then you can start dialing this in. So anyway, yeah, we got a head, and then we want to go through here and start, you know, we can start dialing in, and also where, and again, I studied for a second and I didn't retain all of it, so please don't take this as a, I'm an expert at this, and definitely check this out. It's more of a, here's some generalities and I need to keep studying. But the orbit is in here, and it's going to take a sweep up to here. The inner canth is going to connect, and then here's the eyeball. The eyelid's going to have some thickness, you know, so then they cast a shadow and they're going to catch a highlight on the bottom. And then again, this orbit's going to be right here. So if we're going to put fat pads in here, that's where it's going to go, you know, and then we can put this on this side here, and then a little fat pad here. And then again, if we want to age this, they're going to age, again, the instruction is it's going to age in very specific ways. These things don't just happen all over the place. You know, you're going to have your submandibular fat underneath the chin, and then here's where the jowling occurs. It doesn't occur in the chin, it doesn't occur back here. This is where you have the jowling under. Again, if I go back to my cheat sheet here, I can say, okay, where does all this actually take place, so I can have a better idea. And again, if I want to, you know, I'll do see-through. So if I want to match, I want to match this, I can take this cheat sheet in here and say, okay, that's where it is. I'll turn off see-through. Windows Shift S, just grab it, and then hop back over into Photoshop. Paste it. And I forgot I was zoomed out. We were working on a big thing, so. But anyway, there's my cheat sheet from my 3D model. So now I can reinforce, you know, okay, here's the terms, and here's the malar fat pad here. And then also, you know, it goes into the emotion and how that's going to push and pull these things around. All really, really good stuff. But, and also where, you know, when you're younger, you're going to have fat that kind of goes over this, and then after a while it's going to kind of slip down, and then your orbit's going to kind of poke through, so you have a little bit more of a sharper transition here, you know. And then, of course, oops, forgot the temporal line here, et cetera, and then, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So we have, you know, we start dialing in. Again, we're going to catch highlights, you know, that eyelid has thickness, so you can go through here and you can start dialing in. Oops, let's do a little bit of a highlight here and catch light in here, depending where your light direction is coming from. You know, catch some light here and then some shadows in some other areas. You know, this will be very shadowed. And again, you can actually set your light direction too in here and use that as a cheat sheet as well, which I probably should have done. And also another thing to consider is like where the blood pooling is happening. So I shift this to like multiply. We can do like a little bit of, you know, maybe a little bit more ruddy, not darken. I said multiply. You know what, we're painting on this one. Shoot, stupid. Multiply, we'll just set that to multiply, normal. So we can kind of, you know, dial in whatever, the difference with the face. And then past this point, we can go back to, you can even get your ink brushes in there. So we got some brushes in here. Let's play around with these. Again, I don't do this often. Ooh, manga brush is perfect. Basic? Sure. So through here, you can go through and kind of dial in, you know, what's important for your little ink sketch here. Let's drop this down a little bit. And even when you're inking and stuff, you know, line thickness and where the heavier lines are, if you're only going to do lines on the opposite side, you know, all that's going to play into, you know, where you put your lines. Again, I'm no expert on that. And then from here too, if we got our basic construction and you're like, you know what, let's do normal, normal. You know, if we make this head here and we reduce that brow ridge and we maybe tilt these eyes up just a tad, you know, and then we again softening the brow ridge, softening the features, pointing the chin a little bit. We don't need the super square jaw. We'll just kind of curve this on back. Nose, and then we'll kind of, again, make sure that the lips wrap around that cylinder. You don't want to, you can put them out a little bit here. So again, these, you know, have thickness and we're just following that center line down. It's sitting on top of teeth. If you have teeth in there, you know, they'll be back. And then, yeah, here, thinner brow. One thing I'll do is, here's the part. We'll do a little cyberpunk. Ears, same thing. Not too different there. And then this, you know, speaking of, you can do the, oops. Shoot, sorry. What was it? There we go. So I have a quick flip in here. Let's just flip. You guys know, you know what I'm trying to say, right? Just flip mirror so you can, you know, make sure everything's working correctly. Go through here and sketch it up. So now we've got cyberpunk lady through here. But again, it's all based on, and again, if we wanted to do the not just the human construction, now I have a better idea of the Bridgman stuff where it's like, okay, here's a ball sitting on top of another ball, and here's that ball sits in face. I want to put a ball on here. It's actually going to be a nose that kind of pops out, you know. And if I want to put a brow ridge in here, it still kind of works, you know. I can still put the eyes, and the eyes are going to favor the top of that brow ridge here. So now if I go through here and I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me, what is, not Bridgman, this is Loomis. You know, now I can go through here and use this type of construction for the cartoon characters, but it's still, you know, well constructed, you know, so we'll go back to that thing. And Loomis loves to do the bald guys. So, you know, and again, where the fat pads go, I know the rules there-ish, even though it's a very cartoony character, I can still kind of base it, in reality. Here's the chubby cheeks, and then again, the ears are still going to be generally between, you know, the brow and the nose, depending on the look I'm going for, if I want to exaggerate the ears or not. And then these kind of cheeks jowling, you know, can still follow the same basic principles. Even though it's a cartoon head, I can still put the jowling in generally the same place. The malar fat pads in generally the right place. You know, this is, you know, he's doing an expression. So the facts expression, so brow down, or, you know, 1 and 2 is brow up, and then brow down, and then when it goes brow down, there's like a little divot that can happen in here, you know, so all that big thick brow ridge, and then bald, all that good stuff. So again, me doing even something as simple and as cartoony as this, really difficult for me just knowing just pure construction, but now knowing a lot more about actual anatomy, I'm able to do cartoon characters better and more effectively, and constructing better, and still basing it in reality, but not necessarily, you know. And that's another thing too I need to practice more, is like I use 3D a lot as a crutch for shadows and like what's the word I'm looking for, symmetry and perspective and stuff, and so I'm not great at perspective, so that's another thing. If I really want to be effective, I probably will need to go and study perspective. I want to be effective, study perspective. You know, I know the basics, but I don't do a ton of it. So anyway, you know, I could still be like, okay, in this case, you know, there's fat pads that go along here. Does this make a whole lot of sense? You know, or is this really kind of a big jaw, more like, you know, and his chubby cheeks, the buccal fat would be more in kind of that area. But would he have chubby cheeks, or would he be more effective as like, you know what, let me bony this out a little bit and give him a big strong jaw, and he's jowling down here, submandibular fat, and then we can, as we tie this in, we can say, okay, there's where his neckline is going to be, and then we'll cinch him up a little bit so his neck's kind of spilling out over his collar here, make him look a little uncomfortable. And then what else? He would be, and then this is where you get into the shading and stuff, which again, not great at. And he would be like, I think that's my cue to head out. Let's go through the questions. Get caught up. Anatomy Sculptor is another good one. Hook up these substance maps into an Arnold standard in Maya. I'm also not sure what I think about Adobe buying Substance now. They are the new Disney. I mean, yeah, take that. Oh, I forgot to give you the bookmark. So here's the bookshelf. Sorry. I guess it's, or maybe I did share that. I forgot. Copy link. If not, I'll copy it real quick. Yeah, you can use Marmoset to texture. I'm just so much faster in Substance, and I have it already, so all that. Those materials are plugged into VRay in Maya, so I used VRay in Maya, but you could use Arnold. You just have to export your maps slightly different, maybe. And I also like the metallic roughness model. I hate spec gloss, so VRay had a metallic roughness setup that I used on their material system, so that's what I went with. Texture warp in the future only took them 9 years. Beveling work on curve transition, it doesn't, but I gave you, if you scroll back in the video, you'll see some tips on that. Quixel Mixer and Marmoset Toolbag 4 with the new texture creation features, how do you feel it compared to Substance Painter? I did a little bit, I did. If you go back through, and this is an interesting thing too, you might be interested in. An interesting thing you might be interested in. If you go to here to the Look Dev No UV tutorial, this I went into Marmoset. So we did Substance Painter, and this No UV Look Dev is basically just baking everything to a plane, so you can very quickly take a complex object and then render it out. And then this is Marmoset. So going into Marmoset and doing the same thing, texturing and layering materials and rendering in Marmoset with actual lights, which is nice. And then they have the new ray tracing render. So transparent materials as well, they have glass and stuff, but in here's a bunch of Painter stuff too, where we talk about Painter functionality. But yeah, complex object like a car, I didn't have to decimate it down or retopologize it or bake my maps or anything, literally just bake it to a plane, go in here and texture, and this is all textured in Marmoset right now. So that's all free on YouTube. Let me paste. That's the book. That's the bookshelf, and then this is this series here. And it's cool. It's totally cool. And again, you can do in the bonus section if you want to grab that off Gumroad. There's you just Google Pavlovich Gumroad. There's some more stuff in here. So and then you can actually get these models as well. So you can have the gun model. It's in there for download. The face split open model is in there for download. What else is in there? The truck model's in there for download. Some other stuff too. All the 3D models, I forget what they are. So a little bit. Compares fine. I wish I could sculpt fat beats. If we could tie my hotkeys to a beat generator, it'd be pretty neat. I didn't take me very long. I just auto UV'd. I decimated the Bison is just decimated and then auto UV'd. I cared not a single. I didn't have time to care about quality, production quality. What do you think are best for manual topology? I think, oh god, everybody's got a good topology now. I use ZBrush, Z-Spheres for stuff I don't feel like exporting, but Max Maya Moto Blender, Topogun, 3D Coat, they all got something. It's all variations on a theme, right? You're basically just putting polygons on something, and there's some stuff that'll save you 15 whole minutes. Use it. Ever challenge anyone in the ZBrush sculpt? No, I don't want to lose. I like good in editing. Post. I make myself look good in post. You saw all the post work I did at the beginning of this stream, right? I go into I go into Vegas Pro and just chop. Good, the grubber. Cool. Yeah, even I have a bad time sometimes. Octane is free in Blender and Unreal as well. Oh, good idea. Yeah, you can use Unreal as I forgot. Use Unreal as a renderer. Nothing wrong with that. Modeling the geometry, slicing it up. That's the slicing stuff is tougher to get to work with some of the built-in features, for sure. Using standard brush with the brush square rectangle mode, and there is a concrete height texture, and now I have the texture on top of a curve. If you need to turn off a texture in ZBrush, if you have a texture loaded, you should be able to go in here and just turn it off if it's a brush. Concrete height texture. Standard brush, brush square rect. I mean, brush BC, brush concrete. It's either turning off your texture or turning off. There is an actual concrete brush in here that's interesting. I don't know if it's called that. It might be brush. What's it look like? It's like somewhere in here. Or you know what? It might be in here. I don't know. I don't know exactly where it would be, but I mean, at the end of the day, I can probably just recreate it real quick. It would be basically something like the blob brush with, oh, where's the alpha? Yeah, an hard time. This type of alpha. So it does something like this. So if the concrete alpha is in there, you can turn it off. If there's concrete texture in there, turn that off, I think. Cool. Yeah. The creature anatomy is quite, I guess. Yeah, and if you can base your creature anatomy and the foundations of anatomy and why things are attached where they are and why they do that, your creature's gonna be so much better too. Burton Hogarth, forgot about him. Yeah, anatomy learning process is different. Yeah, exactly. I agree 100%. What works for me, it may be overkill for you. You may be like, what is all this, man? I passed by Bridgman in a bookshop and looked at the cover, and now I can just do it. Some people are actually like that, and I am so jealous. Yeah. Receding hairline best character. Agree. You can be in stylus like this Friday. I'm not. I do have, oh, I got some nightmare fuel for you. Let's see if we got that. Speaking of, here's a little sneak peek. I'm kind of noodling with this in the background during meetings where I have to kind of pay attention. So, I'm just kidding. Usually in the morning or at night. So we do have kind of a Ninja Turtle that's getting cleaned up here. He's got, he does have little shorts on because, avert your eyes maybe. Let's go in here to texture map. Let's turn this on. So here's a Ninja Turtle. If he was human-ish, human-esque. So basically this is just projected from a 1024 model. So and it's again, I'm just playing around with it. But if I go through here, we can kind of see. Let's see, turn everything else on. There we go. Here's the eye wet setup here. So here's a scene that's kind of happening. You know, he's going to be scoping a Ninja Turtle arcade game, Michelangelo in the flesh, and he's going to be like, "What? They still play this game? What year is this?" Anyway, that's the Ninja Turtle I did for Stylusly. So if you want to check that out, eventually this will be something I finish, but not anytime soon because it's just I'm doing other stuff. We're gonna get the red brush using your drawing so I can get as good as you. Yeah, exactly. Let me. You know what? You're exactly right. The real trick is this brush I have right here. It's got magical powers. That really the brush is doing all the heavy lifting, and everything else is just kind of me just moving my cursor around, and then the brush just kind of fills it in like a Warner Brothers cartoon. Yay! And then I gotta put a mustache on characters. It just really gives them that 70s vibe I'm always looking for. And always the receding hairline. Although maybe we'll do a receding hairline and then we'll just mullet it out. That's really what I'm looking for. Now we're talking. Cigarette? Anybody? Yes. Easy. 3D mouse for ZBrush. I haven't seen you using one, although people say it makes better, but then it occupies your keyboard. Yeah, I use my keyboard religiously. So in ZBrush, I don't use it that much. But other things like Fusion 360, I use it. Just honestly, because Fusion 360 navigation is tough for me sometimes because I don't use it that often. So it's kind of a great equalizer. And all people who've been using it's for people who've been using 3D mouses forever and like are just masters at it. It's just another option. It's not going to make or break you, I don't think, but it's a nice option to have. Later, Pete Gremlin. Do you have experience with the USD workflow? No. I know it exists. You can now export stuff in ZBrush with USD, but I don't really. But you did UV the bowl. Yes, auto UV. Create, auto UV. Layout, pack it for me. That's it. UVs on that buffalo and all the accessories took 2 minutes. I'm not going to put that on my portfolio as check out my wires and check out my UV layout, give me a job, because in order to do that, I would have to take a week to go through and do it appropriately, but I did not have a week. It was ZBrush beta, and I had to get that stuff out and rendered, and good enough was what I had to do. The essence of what I was getting at, more so than, oh, look, I did the UVs perfectly. Now my video is 3% better. Cool, John Yu. I will be streaming next Tuesday. Thanks for the question. I'll be streaming on Pixelogic's channel next Tuesday, but then that'll probably be it for the month. But again, I'll put that video on my YouTube channel. Oh yeah, actually, that's maybe something I will do. So if I go through here, he does have, I mean, I could put eyelashes and eyebrows. You know, he's got his nose smeared on there, his ears. So I got to go through. There's some cleanup work involved for sure. But yeah, you know what? I'll give him eyebrows. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and say, you know, now that we know the tools here, this is where we can use Photoshop to help out. So, okay, we're going to do a little concept and ideation, the class I teach at CGMA. So We got our Ninja Turtle in here. So you know what, maybe, you know, if I want to have a more exposed teeth, but maybe we want to put a, you know, maybe a couple missing teeth, because that's a snaggle tooth in here, because that's what we're looking for. And then through here, we want to kind of give him, again, I guess I gotta have that receding 70s hairline and that receding hairline and the 70s mullet. So now we've got a cool thing going, and then, you know, mustache. And you know what? Let's go full like biker handlebar mustache. Just boom. Awesome. Oh, it's so good. And then on here, yeah, big thick brows on this. And now you can actually, you can smell this character, which is what I like. You're like, man, I can really see where we're going with this. It's not just some Ninja Turtle. Now it's like, what was that? Ghost something. There's a movie that came out where this guy would play with nunchucks in the parking lot. Ghost World. And I guess that's my inspiration here. I'll give him a few more eye bags. He's been smoking and he had not a whole lot of sleep here. So we'll kind of puff his face a little bit. He's carrying a little bit of water. And we got the lips here. And again, we got the mouth filled in, so we're good. There we go. Now we got a stew going. Got a little mouth circle here. Got the big handlebar mustache. Again, just bigger brush here. We don't want a straggly, scratchy mustache. We want that filled in. Because you know, if you can grow facial hair like this, you know you got some majestic back hair going too, right? So that's really what the point we're trying to get across to the viewer. That's the story we're telling underneath the hood, that you don't have to scream it, but you imply it. And now he's like, he went from like a friendly Ninja Turtle to now this Ninja Turtle's kind of leering at me. Now this Ninja Turtle's trying to sell me some meth where I don't really know the quality of it. And I'm a little concerned. I'm going to be hesitant. Wraps around his legs. Yeah, check out the Stylist League. Google, I guess I can link you to it. Actually make those straps real time and give a few tips. Let's see, Stylist League YouTube. Boom. There we go. I'll link that here. Cool. Thanks everybody. I'll catch you on Tuesday on Pixelogic's channel. I'll copy the video back over to my YouTube channel like I usually do, and we'll go from there. But oh, now that I wonder, is any of this going through? Well, I've been copying and pasting links. I hope they've been going through. I struggle with Restream daily, so I apologize if none of the links went through. Yeah, not on YouTube either. Why do I bother? Why do I bother Restream? Here, send. Okay, that went through. Was it just because I didn't have Restream click? I mean, I can show you what's going on here. So this was on Restream, but it didn't actually send anything through until I went Restream. And now it works. Sorry, everybody. Technology. What are you going to do? Oh, anyway, see you all later, and catch you on Tuesday.